Hello, everyone. It's the Gaming Bounty Board podcast, the GBB podcast. I'm back here with Shkotsky, and it's
Hello.
been a while. It's been about a year.
Yeah. How are you doing?
I'm doing good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well as well.
That's good. That's good. You've been playing any new games?
Yeah, I've been playing the new Prince of Persia game,
Nice.
and also the Last of Us Part 2 remaster thing.
Okay.
It's
Yeah.
basically the same game, but, with prettier
Which
graphics.
is funny that that's even achievable, right? Like you say,
Yeah,
a brand new game that came out literally only like a few years ago,
yeah.
remastered, which even though it supported 4K then, it now supports 4K still. You know what I mean? I don't think how does it look that much better? I mean, does it look? I mean, how much better can it look?
Actually, it supported 1440p on PS4 Pro, and
Okay.
on the
Oh yeah, I forget
PS5
that.
version,
Yeah,
yeah.
I forget that
The
PS4 Pro wasn't native
Yeah,
4K.
yeah, yeah. The initial version for PS5 had a patch that allowed you to play at 60 FPS.
Yeah.
And this thing, basically, it's a $10 upgrade that allows you to play in full 4K or 1440p 60 FPS. It
Okay.
adds some new things. It adds that roguelike mode called No Return.
Right.
That's pretty cool. It's like I've been playing it for a few hours, and it's not insanely deep, but it's kind of cool. The whole combat system of Last of Us Part 2 was, I always enjoyed it, so I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
this works as a separate mode. I think it shows that this was one of the ideas that they maybe had for the multiplayer mode that they
Right.
were talking about, like in
Yeah.
the initial phases, because this is like uh, it's a little similar to to that how was it called, Grounded, that multiplayer mode that Last of Us Part 1 had. It's a
Yeah.
little
Yeah. Yeah.
similar to that in some regard.
Okay. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
pretty cool.
yeah,
Um, so that's been pretty fun though. You've been enjoying playing that.
yeah. Well, I might not be the biggest fan of the story of Last of Us Part 2, but
Right.
I like the gameplay, I like the exploration, the
Yeah.
graphics, everything except for the story. But it's not terrible, It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
I'm just not the biggest fan of it.
But yeah, the directions it goes in and stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
It feels more like a series than a proper, story.
right. Okay, yeah, I get that. I get that. And you so you've been playing the Prince of Persia: The Lost Crown as well?
Yeah, yeah. I've been playing that a lot. I'm getting slightly burned out on it.
Oh, okay.
It's interesting,
Yeah.
it's kind of similar to things like Hollow Knight, or maybe Metroid,
Mhm.
stuff like that. It's basically Metroidvania set in the Prince of Persia universe,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
it's weird, it's it's kind of pretty damn difficult if you don't use any of the accessibility options, and if you play on like hard or maybe even normal. It's like I feel like some of the enemies just have way too much health, and they deal too much damage, and after a few hours you start getting into encounters with foes that are just you know a bit overpowered for my tastes. It kind of reminds me of the early hours of Hollow Knight. That's probably why I don't really like Hollow Knight. So yeah, that's the thing that kind of bugs me with it, and why
Yeah.
I'm starting to get burned out.
I've never even played
Uh,
Hollow Knight, but
oh, really?
I've always been a big Prince of Persia fan. I
Yeah,
never
me
really
too.
played a lot of the old 2D games much. I
Yeah,
seen them. Never really played those, but I played the ones on PS2. Um, and I've always loved those games. Those are pretty formative, like early years for me, especially alongside some other games. But uh, Prince of
yeah.
Persia. was always a really cool one. You know, it was
Yeah,
unique and it was different, and then it kind of went away.
yeah. Prince of Persia, like it has been a series that really stuck to me throughout the years. I remember even playing the very very first Prince of Persia game. That one that came out on the I think Apple One or Apple Two or one of those
Yeah,
very
yeah, it
early
was.
Macintosh systems. Yeah,
Yeah, it was on one of
I
those. Yeah.
used to. Yeah, we used to have this IT room at my primary school that was like
Yeah.
over 20 years ago. So I remember playing that game on that Mac, and it already was kind of old. Both the computer itself and the game. But I really really enjoyed it, and we
Yeah, I was gonna
did
say
this hot.
you're
Yeah.
a little bit younger. You're younger than me, right? A little bit. I can't remember if we
Uh,
talked about this before.
no, I think I'm like
Are you older
older
than
by
me?
2 years. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I'm 28 in April.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, you're a couple years older than I am. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Okay. Well, I was gonna say it's still like even at that point, like when you were a kid, you know, playing those
yeah,
like that, they would have been quite outdated because they were like early '80s.
yeah, yeah. Early 80s and the 90s. Yeah. So
Yeah.
even at that point, they seemed really old, but I liked them. And the Sands of Time trilogy, that was like
Those are
one of
fantastic.
those definitive series that I remember playing on my own
Yeah.
very first PC that I had.
I
So
still
yeah,
think
those.
that I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but um
Okay.
I I still think that Prince of Persia does like something with the adventure genre that we just don't see very much anymore.
Yeah, yeah, agreed. It's kind of rare these days. Those maybe you could say that Uncharted or the
Yeah.
new Tomb Raider games kind of try to do something similar, but it's not exactly the same. It's a very specific series, very specific to that era of gaming, and
Yeah.
you know I still remember playing Two Thrones on my very very first computer that I actually had, and didn't borrow from my dad. And it was just it was something. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
that was a formative experience, and it
No, yeah.
was like it was quite close to the release of, well, maybe not close, but still in that
Yeah.
same-ish kind of time frame as the game that we sometimes talk about on Discord or Twitter. I obviously mean Prey 2006, and that was like one of those
Yeah.
formative experiences as well.
Right. Yeah, that would have been yeah, it was at 2006, so I mean that was not
Yeah,
too long. It was just
yeah,
only a couple years after
yeah,
Prince of
yeah,
Persia.
like a year or two. Yeah,
Yeah. I mean, you know, Prince of Persia, I grew up playing it with my uncle. You know, I mean, I also grew up
yeah,
like playing the original God of War games and stuff. But it was just something
yeah,
about like don't get me wrong, I love Greek mythology and I love God of War.
yeah.
But something about Prince of Persia always stood out over those games. Maybe it was because it didn't quite get the same popularity because it never was as popular by any means at
No,
all.
no, no, never, never.
And then
It
it went.
was,
I mean,
you
after
know,
its third game, it just kind of like
yeah,
kept doing remakes. So
yeah, yeah. Well, I'm one of those people that actually enjoyed Prince of Persia 2008. That one without a subtitle.
yeah, that's the one with
Yeah,
where they went with the more like uh
like
watercolor visuals.
Borderlands-ish.
Yeah, it's kind of
Yeah,
like yeah.
yeah,
I never
kind of
played
like
that one.
Borderlands. Yeah, it's really good. It's kind of different because you don't really have any regular enemies. You only have those, bosses that you fight
Yeah,
with. You can't really even die in that game because that support character just, revives you each time. So it's like a really, you know, a game that's more aimed at a casual audience, but I still remember like watching making of videos of that game,
yeah, yeah,
and I even remember it being shown on this like gaming TV thing we had here in
yeah, yeah.
those days. So
Huh.
yeah, it's something something that stuck with me. Like
Yeah,
just like the older games. The
yeah.
one that I never played was that Prince
The
of
last
Persia
one.
Forgotten Sands
Yeah, so
thing.
I did play that one.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I played Forgotten Sands. It came out like 2011 or something like that. It was like around the
Yeah,
same time as the film.
yeah, yeah.
And yeah, I played that.
On that note, I kind of like the movie.
I do too, actually. I think it's just
Yeah,
because I look past the fact that it's like an okay action movie, but it's like it's a Prince
yeah.
of Persia movie, and it's pretty decent at that.
It's like one of those first, video game movies that
Yeah,
actually
it's
works.
pretty far. It's pretty up there as like one of the You know, it's a funny thing. What is that movie called? The Prince of Persia movie reminds me of called
Hmm.
something Carter.
Oh, John Carter?
John Carter. Yeah, the Disney
Or
movie that nobody likes.
yeah, maybe. Well, that
John
one where
Carter.
he like I don't
Yeah, John
remember
Carter. Yeah,
exactly.
where
John Carter, yeah. It's based
he's
on a
like a
book, right?
yes, he's like a it's in the West in the 1800s, and he finds the little cave
Yeah,
or whatever, and it teleports him
yeah.
to
To
another
Mars.
planet, yeah, to Mars, where there's
Yeah,
like a whole
yeah,
nother society and all that.
yeah,
And
yeah.
you know, a lot of people don't like that, but I thought that movie was pretty decent. I actually recently
Yeah,
rewatched
I
it,
liked
and
it.
I still think it's pretty decent. But
Yeah,
the Prince of Persia movie, they kind of remind me, it's like that same level of like this kind of video game thing, but it's also goofy but full of action, and it's just kind of a good time, which
like
I kind of like.
before we had that, the only things we had were like the Far Cry movie or
I
the
never watched the Far Cry movie. I always forget that even
yeah it's
exists.
yeah it was made by that guy Uwe Boll, that
Oh
German
yeah, yeah,
director
yeah,
known for being a piece of shit. So
yeah,
I think he made a couple of these. He made
yeah.
a very first Dungeons and Dragons movie, I think.
Right.
Uh, what else did he make? I don't remember right now, but
Of course, we had
I think
the
he
Mortal
yeah.
Kombat movies, which I grew up watching.
Yeah, 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 yeah. I never watched them in full, but
Yeah,
I kind of seen some fragments of them.
yeah, yeah,
We had the Doom movie with
yeah.
The Rock.
It's kind of funny, the Doom movie.
Yeah,
Carl Urban steals the show in that movie, but
yeah,
I
exactly.
mean, he was so much better than The Rock, right? And still to
Yeah,
this day, better actor. But he or not he, but like the movie, it's such a movie that I kind of look fondly back on, and even I feel like I always knew that it was kind of bad. But as a kid, I didn't really. So, like I've talked about before, where Doom 3 was probably one of the earliest like horror games I played that just like scared
yeah,
the
yeah.
crap out of me. I had it on a demo disc. And so the demo disc only lets you play so far, and I don't even know how far it was because I got so scared I never did keep playing it. I never beat the demo. And so I'd play to a certain point or whatever, and it just scared the crap out of me as a kid. And because games were so much more like I had grew up watching horror movies, but games were so much scarier because they were more visceral and immersive, I guess. But
Yeah.
yeah,
It's a
so
different experience when you actually interact with things that
yeah,
are supposed
yeah,
to scare you, right?
yeah. I mean, when you're in control versus it being paced out for you, it's like a whole other thing. I think
Yeah.
some people who aren't into games don't quite understand that perspective.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, that's probably why, VR horror games are so effective.
they
Like,
really are. I
when
like
you
VR
when
horror.
you are so yeah, yeah, when you are so immersed in that. Like I played some Half-Life Alyx
Yeah.
like a year ago or something, and there's this one section that it's just you walking through a dark corridor, but
Yep.
with a VR headset on your head, and like with the OLED screen not
Hmm.
letting any of the reflections come in, and it's
Even though you can
being really
kind of see the border of your
yeah,
headset, but it's like
yeah.
when your eyes are
But if you
concentrated on what's
focus,
on
yeah,
screen, yeah, you're not going to see
on
all of that.
the yeah on the center of the image, it's
Yeah.
like it's a very different experience than
Yeah.
seeing something on your screen. But with a good headset, and
Hmm.
if you play like late in the night, even playing a video game on your small ass fucking laptop screen can be
Oh yeah.
effective, right?
Yeah, late at
Yeah,
night. Anything
yeah,
horror in the dark is instantly elevated to a
yeah.
whole nother level.
Oh yeah, sure, yeah.
But I watched the Doom movie, and they made like it's not demons, it's aliens. And
Yeah.
it's just so goofy. But at the time, I was like, oh, okay, that makes sense. So it's like demon alien things because like I didn't know the story or anything, right? And of the games or anything like that. And like, okay, that makes sense, you know. So I was kind of like fondly connected, like Doom 3 and the movie as like somehow canonically connected for like a long time. And but I will say this though, one of the coolest things that that movie did was the first person perspective little
Oh
scene with Carl Urban.
yeah.
That's like I mean, if you ever watched Hardcore Henry,
Yeah, I watched it a couple of times. Yeah, I really
yeah,
like that movie.
I really like that movie as well. But it's kind of like somebody you watch Hardcore Henry, and it's like somebody saw that Doom scene and they're
Yeah,
like, you know what? I think we should make that a
but
movie. That's kind of
yeah,
like because
exactly.
Hardcore Henry feels like you're like watching like a video game, but it's a movie.
Yeah. Yeah, like that final, scene
Yeah.
with all of those fucking guys wearing those
Yeah.
white suits and stuff.
Yep.
It's
And then
like
the dude's like out
that's
of nowhere, he's like starting to like just do
yeah, yeah.
telepathic shit and just throw stuff around and like making everybody I'm like, what? When did this happen?
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
that
just
that came
random.
out of nowhere, but it was fucking cool.
It was a cool ass movie. It
Yeah.
was I
Yeah.
mean I didn't expect it to be at all as what it was, you know. It was just kind of blew
Yeah.
my mind.
It's hard to
But
even
yeah.
find online these days though.
What, Hardcore Henry? Yeah, I don't know where you can watch
Yeah.
it. I have it on
Yeah.
Blu-ray, so
Yeah.
I bought it back when it first came out, I think. But yeah, I don't know where you'd watch it online. Now that I think
There
about
is a
it.
version of the movie on YouTube actually in
Oh,
full. It's
okay.
a
Yeah.
Blu-ray rip, but it's a really low quality
Yeah.
and then has a Polish dub over it, so it's not really,
Great.
only Polish people want to watch it.
Right. Right. That's
But
fair. I mean,
if you only focus on the action scenes, it's fine.
yeah. Right. True. And that's really the highlight of it. There's really not even that much dialogue in it.
Yeah, yeah,
Here and there, but
exactly.
not too much. But that's not that. That's
Yeah, but
actually kind of
it's
funny. Before we like, let's kind of go off on a little tangent for just a second before we get into like Prey and stuff. But uh, um,
yeah.
that kind of brings me like to how it's hard to find it really online and stuff. It brings me to like there's this TV show called Raised by Wolves that was on
Oh
HBO Max,
yeah,
which is now
yeah,
Max.
yeah.
Have you seen it?
I've seen the first season. Yeah.
Okay, I love that show. I watched both seasons. Honestly, one of my favorite shows of all time now. Like just the cinematography, the writing, the themes, it's just really good.
Have you seen the Alt Shift X video that they did on it? They like
Um
explained the plot and stuff.
no, I haven't. I'll have
It's
to look at
really,
that.
it's really good.
The I
Like
mean the whole plot really like it's very derived from the Bible and stuff. It's very
yeah,
you know, like a lot of the, you know, taking the apple from the tree and which that's a season 2 thing, but um there's a lot of stuff like that that is in that show,
yeah,
but the point I'm getting at with the show is that it was an HBO Max show. It was very successful. A lot of
yeah,
people loved it, and then they just canceled it after season 2.
yeah.
And people were like, "Why?" And they were literally just cleaning house because they wanted to get some more DC stuff in there and some other
Yeah.
high profile stuff. And then there's like a whole petition to bring it back. Nobody's picked it up yet. And basically,
Are you still able to watch it on HBO
no,
Max?
no, that's what I'm getting at. They
Oh,
removed the
oh yeah.
entire show from it. It was an
Why?
original of their own, and they removed it.
That fucking sucks.
Yeah, well, I mean, like they haven't removed anything else. Like you can still go watch like Deadwood or The
Yeah,
Sopranos or
exactly.
like all
Yeah,
these other successful shows. And
yeah,
Deadwood only had like 3 or 4 seasons. It's not like it
yeah,
was like ran till the end. It left on a cliffhanger. It's you know, I mean, they
yeah.
canceled it right in the middle of that, and it was very successful. But the
I
point
think
is,
you
it's
can
like,
still watch Jericho or
yeah, I think
those
so.
kinds of series. Yeah,
Yeah, I think so. So I don't know what happened there. I don't know if it's a rights thing. Like maybe HBO doesn't own the rights to Raised by Wolves, so maybe the director and
no
like
idea.
Ridley Scott, who was involved, his production
Yeah,
studio is involved. So maybe they don't own the rights, and that's why they had to remove it because they're no longer producing or not funding it anymore. I don't know, but what I do know is that there's no way for you to watch it unless you buy it on YouTube. That's it.
yeah.
That is the only option that you can do. Other than
It fucking
they did
sucks.
release it on Blu-ray, I think, on disc. If you go, the only way you can find it is on Amazon, which I had to dig
Oh,
quite a bit to find it. And I think maybe no, they got English versions, but I think they have some that are like not region locked, but they're from the UK or something. I've had some other stuff like that, but luckily, like Xbox disk drive isn't region locked. So.
yeah. Speaking of movies made by Ridley Scott, I think I was trying to source the director's cut version of Kingdom of Heaven. You know, that version that is like 40 or even 15 minutes longer. And
Yeah,
some people say that it's like one of his best movies if you watch the director's cut.
yeah.
And I even bought it on Amazon, but 3 days before it was supposed to be delivered, it just disappeared. It got
Oh,
canceled by the guy that was supposed to send it, and it's like I can find it online in any other language than Russian, so that's weird. So,
that is weird.
and I really want to experience it for myself because I
Yeah.
kind of like that movie, but if that version is even better, I want to see it.
Yeah, naturally. But that's another thing is nowadays it's getting harder and harder and harder to come across physical media of any kind. It's harder to
Yeah.
get games, to get movies, to get anything like that. They either become like so expensive that you can't get your hands on it, or people have to resort to pirating to get their hands on it,
Yeah.
or whatever.
Most most electronic stores in here don't even sell PC games anymore. And if they do, it's like, electronics arts games like The Sims or,
Yeah.
the things they release. And maybe some Polish games developed by
Yeah.
Polish studios or maybe, distributed by
Yeah.
Polish companies.
It's rare that you
But
see
yeah,
like any PC games where I live either. I mean, some of like the big stores and stuff might have a few. It's usually just like
yeah,
stuff that's been out for like 10 years. Rarely anything new. And then like GameStop and stuff like that doesn't they haven't sold PC games since I was a child. So I don't you know what I mean? Like they haven't
yeah,
I don't even remember the last time that they sold PC games.
yeah.
Like physical
And that
PC
sucks
games probably
because that was
died in the
like,
early
yeah.
2000s. Like I don't think it was that big after that.
Yeah, I remember buying physical PC games even in early 2010s,
Yeah,
but like,
it was still a little bit more common, but
yeah, but like about 8, 9 years ago, it started to change. I
mm,
remember when I lived in Scotland for a few years, it was like, most of those big chain stores that actually had, like dedicated sections for video games never had any PC versions, and even small video game stores rarely had PC versions. So that was kind of
yeah,
only Amazon was like still
yeah, the
going.
main place to get them.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy. I actually I don't have much when it comes to physical PC games, but I was able
Yeah.
to grab a cool one that I think was cool to grab, and that was the physical box for The Witcher 2.
Oh, nice.
That has like the map, the soundtrack, a documentary, the
Oh, nice.
game, all in this box. And it was because I started like a little side business that's not being very lucrative because of the economy right now, but
Mm,
of reselling stuff. And so I was going to
okay.
Goodwill and buying stuff, and I was going to resell and stuff like that. And I went to Goodwill, and
Yeah.
they had the uh Witcher 2 Assassin of Kings physical PC box, and I was like, "Ooh, that looks like it's in this section or whatever." But it didn't have a tag on it. So I went up to the front. I was like, "Hey, how much is this?" Cuz it's over there with those games, but I don't know. And then they call the back to like I guess whoever's over all that stuff, and they say, "Oh, just give it to him for $1." And I was like, "Oh shit, really? Hell yeah. Hell yeah." I
That's
was
gonna be
excited as
like
hell.
a, you know, $100 in like 5 years.
Yeah, I can't. I mean, I can't even play that version of it because like my laptop doesn't have a disk drive or anything. But
uh,
it's still cool as hell to have,
yeah,
And
yeah,
I'm sure I could grab the game if I wanted it on PC for pretty cheap. I actually played The Witcher 2 before I became a fan of The Witcher, um,
Okay.
and I didn't like it that much on Xbox. Because
Yeah,
they
I
gave it
heard
away
some.
yeah,
Yeah.
they gave it away for free on Gold, and the loading screens, like in the begin, you play the beginning of the game, and I was like, damn, this is interesting as hell because they do like what Witcher 3 does, where like
Yeah.
they kind of talk about the prior game, but then you kind of answer it, and it doesn't really matter what you say because it just kind of like says what you say is canon. And
Kind of.
yeah, and so you do all the whole intro, and then you go to that first town
Yeah.
after you escape the castle or whatever. And when you get there, like you go through the front gate, but the town is split between two sections that's like, separated by a wall in the middle that has another gate, which are separated by loading screens.
Yeah, I know.
The freaking loading screens between the
The
two
town and the
areas
forest.
was like 30 minutes.
Really?
I'm not even shitting you. Like
That's
it might not
fucking
even been that
stupid.
long, but it was pretty damn long. Like it was 5+ minutes, like easy. It was like long ass time, and I was like, I can't do this. I
I
can't do it.
mean, I'm not surprised. I remember when I first played it on PC, that was like a demanding ass game. Like, I
Yeah,
remember being absolutely shocked how badly it was performing. Uh,
yeah. I don't
I'm
think it
not the
performs very
biggest.
well on console
Yeah,
overall.
yeah. Did it ever come out on any other system than Xbox?
I don't think so. I think it was only on the 360, and then they
Yeah.
did like the backwards compatibility for modern consoles. I don't think you can get it
Oh,
on
okay.
PS3 or
Yeah.
anything, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, I'm not the biggest fan of Witcher 2, but I'm
Yeah,
like, even to this day, I'm still impressed by, how ambitious it was in some of its aspects. That whole thing where one choice kind of decides the rest of the game for you, and
yeah,
like what sort of quest you are getting. That's unmatched even today. Like even
yeah.
Witcher 3 didn't do that.
Mm-mm.
But then it's like, it's a much
But then,
smaller
yeah,
game, and
yeah.
it's kind of, it's different. It has some
Oh, for sure.
interesting ideas, but I think it's like The Witcher 3 is obviously the best out of all of them when it
Yeah,
comes to, to
I'm a
gameplay
huge
and
Witcher
stuff
3
like that.
fan. Yeah,
But
huge
I
fan of that game.
personally, I'm the biggest fan of Witcher 1 when it comes to story,
Yeah, I think
because
I've either heard you
yeah,
or saw you post
yeah,
about it, or we talked
yeah,
about it before. Yeah, Witcher 1. I
yeah,
haven't played that
probably,
one.
yeah. Yeah, you should. It's technically the least, appealing because it's the
Right.
oldest, and
Yeah.
it runs on the same engine that Neverwinter Nights ran on. So
Okay.
it's like even back in 2007 it was outdated.
Right.
But like story-wise and like, uh, just, plot-wise, it's the best out of them all. And if you ever read the books, or if you have read the books, it might not be the most connected to them, because I think Witcher 2 is the most connected, and Witcher 3 is basically a continuation of the books.
Yeah.
But it's a very interesting story, and and it's really damn long too. So it's a nice holiday game.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I definitely need to check it out. Like I said, I
Yeah.
like The Witcher. I haven't read the books, but I definitely need
Yeah.
to check it out. Um,
Yeah, where I live, it's like most people read them, so
right.
I'm not surprised that other people might have not, but
Yeah.
here it's like it's one of those things that Polish people do.
I remember when I first started playing the Metro games years ago, I
Oh,
bought the
yeah.
entire book series. I
Oh,
never
yeah.
read them.
Oh,
I
really?
started reading the first one. I still have all three of them. I just never did get around to it. I still need to do that because I've played every single one of the games and I love them.
Yeah, please do.
I
They are
need
really
to.
good. I
I
love
know.
them.
I really need to. Especially
You may
since like
skip. Yeah.
like I think I can't remember how it goes chronologically, but it's like 2033 is like a reimagining interpretation of the first book, and then it's
Yeah.
like 20 34, and then then Last Light, then it's 2035, or something like that,
Yeah,
and then it's then
2034 is the
Exodus.
least connected to the other games
Yeah, because it's
and
not
books.
Artyom. It's somebody else, right?
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's Hunter and Artyom, but it's I, I sometimes even don't even know if that book is canon, and
Okay.
it's like it's kind of it's a weird one. It's
Yeah, it's
interesting,
also
but
it's also the shortest book of the three.
yeah, yeah.
Like it's like I remember when I got
2035, yeah,
yeah, that 2035 is
is
pretty
the
big.
one that you should read, but
Yeah,
in some ways I think it's the weakest one, because the
yeah.
2033 is the best one,
Mm,
but 2034 is more of an experiment. There are plenty of other books in that universe because of that whole project that the Dmitry Glukhovsky started.
yeah,
And I read some of those series, because those books aren't just like singular titles. They became their own series in that
yeah.
particular universe, and I really like those. There was this one series, I don't know how it's called in English, but I think it's something like Into Light or something like that.
Hmm.
And that's like one of the best series, even though it's actually based on a series that it's kind of crazy.
Hmm. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So, there's some. I feel like there's something special about the Metro and stuff. Like
Yeah.
I think it's just like the games, the books, and just the story of like 4A games.
Yeah. I'm
I
still
mean,
surprised there are like no plans to make a movie out of them.
no, not yet. I mean, it is surprising, and also Dimitri he was been like part of development since the first game, all the way to Exodus,
Yeah.
like right
Yeah, yeah.
alongside them.
He's
But
like,
also like, what was it,
yeah.
Exodus? Like the development of that, like they were. It was during can't remember, but they were working under pretty harsh conditions and trying to like basically
I think they
hide to
were
make
either.
stuff.
Oh yeah. I don't know if it wasn't like it was around 2014 maybe when they started, when that first
Yeah.
set of invasions started from
Yeah.
from the Russian side.
Yeah, I think that's around that. Was it in
Yeah.
Siberia?
No, no. I think they're from Ukraine, but I would
Okay,
need
it
to
might be.
check that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly either, but I just know that there was a lot of like stuff like that going on, and they
Yeah,
were under
I'm
pretty rough
pretty sure that
conditions.
Stalker 2 is deeply affected by,
Oh
the
yeah,
that whole conflict,
yeah, it's a
because
similar.
like a lot of the devs from that studio are actually on the front line, or were on the front
Yeah,
line.
yeah.
So that's kind of fucked, but
There
that
was a
game is
guy
apparently, yeah.
from the Metro team that died in
Oh yeah.
Ukraine.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
That's fucking sad.
yeah. The Metro guys are they work? They're not part of the Stalker 2 development, are they?
No, no, no. That's
Oh,
a
okay.
completely different studio, I think.
But I do know that a
I
lot
think
of 4A used to be ex like Stalker devs.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think a lot of people from the Stalker development team were a part of 4A games at some point, or still
Yeah.
are. So yeah, there are some connections. You can see those in Metro 2033, I think, because
Yeah.
even some of the sound assets are exactly the same as
Right.
Stalker. So you know,
I saw where they were talking about that they're going to make another Metro,
oh
and
really?
I don't know like I don't know how to feel about that because of like I don't know. Have you played Exodus?
Yeah, yeah, I did. I liked
Yeah.
it, but it was very different to
It is,
the
yeah, it is very
previous two.
different. I still
Yeah,
loved it, right? And the way
yeah.
it ends and all that. I just don't see that like I mean it's called Exodus. Like it's not one of those it doesn't seem like you should make a sequel to that, you know?
Well, have you played that DLC that
Oh,
ends up with you going to the States?
yeah, with the one American guy. What's his
Yeah,
name?
Sam. Yeah,
Sam, yeah.
Sam.
No, I didn't
No.
play. I need to play that DLC. I did not play the
Yeah.
DLC.
In one of the endings, you actually go to the United States. So I'm curious if
I thought that was
they are
that was
not.
the goal for the
Yeah.
DLC, wasn't it?
That was the goal, but it has two endings. One of the
Oh, okay.
endings, it's, you sank the boat that he was supposed to go on
Oh,
because it
okay.
has like active nukes on it.
Yeah.
And in the other ending, he just, he uses the boat and he gets, I think, to San Francisco or something like that. And it's
Oh, okay.
obviously ruined and shit.
I got you. Got you. Got you. Okay.
Yeah, uh, there are some possibilities of them, expanding on their own take on that universe, but I would be more interested in seeing something that would, take us back to the Metro,
Yeah.
or
Oh, yeah. I
maybe
agree.
some more smaller, closed off space. It could be open world, but I wish we could get something more in the vein of Metro 2033.
Yeah, Metro 2030. Ugh. Okay. Metro
Mm-hmm.
2033 is like a very good kind of survival horror type game. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's maybe
yeah,
not quite to the full extent, but it is a lot more horror than anything that comes after to some
yeah,
degree.
and it's a
Because
little
Last Light's
more
pretty action
accessible than
packed.
Stalker.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Last
Uh,
Light was fine.
yeah. It was definitely a lot more of an action game compared to 2033.
Yeah,
But what
and
I liked about
Exodus is
Exodus is
a
it's
mix.
kind of
Yeah,
yeah, it's kind of like a mix at times because like, if you're doing exploring and stuff like that, like you go in these caves and different
yeah,
locations, you can have those moments. And a few times where you are like in the metro or another type of location like that, but they're
yeah.
more
Like
on the
the
open world survival element.
the first bigger area in Exodus, it almost felt like a callback to Stalker,
Yeah.
where that desert area felt kind
Hmm.
of like, I don't know, like a callback to Mad Max, possibly,
Yeah.
because it really reminded me of that. And then that forested area, like I remember playing very stealthily in that
Yeah.
section, so it was like almost kind of reminded me of being stealthy in Bethesda games, or
Yeah.
maybe a bit of Thief and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
obviously, it was something different.
Yeah.
I like the whole thing with with them kind of intending for you to not kill people,
Hmm.
but
I
it's
also loved how like if
yeah,
are going after a group of people like the bandits or whatever. I
yeah,
loved how realistic everything kind of felt and like the way people reacted to you and stuff like that and to your decisions in a
yeah,
way. And if you killed this entire group of people, uh, the last dude would like give up, and you could choose whatever you wanted to do after that. You could leave them, you could knock them out, you
yeah,
could kill them, whatever. Always thought that was kind of cool. I thought just kind of like the way they approached the overall game design and quest design stuff was pretty cool, and the
yeah,
realistic elements of the guns and all these other things. I always thought that was pretty cool. I kind of think that in some ways Exodus is it's kind of like it's a pretty unique open world game that
yeah,
mixes linearity in with that openness at times because you have like
yeah,
entire chapters that are completely linear,
yeah.
like the crazy
Like, oh yeah,
people in the
that
one
bunker
bunker.
thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I
Yeah, that
I did
was
not see that
interesting.
coming.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, I was gonna say
I mean,
is Sam voiced by Steve Blum?
I don't actually remember. I played all of these games in Russian, actually, just for the immersion
Oh,
sake.
I got you.
So
Yeah.
I don't remember. Just like Witcher, I play Witcher in Polish, and
Okay.
I always try to do that. Like I play the Plague games in French, you know, stuff like that.
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean that makes sense for some stuff. I when I
Yeah.
started playing Ghost of Tsushima last year a little bit,
Oh yeah.
I was playing it in Japanese. So
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I played that in Japanese too, but it only makes sense on the PS5 because they actually matched the lip sync in
right.
that version.
Hmm. Yeah, I guess I didn't know they improved it.
Yeah,
Was that like the director's cut or
yeah,
whatever?
yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think in the original, they didn't have the budget to do that, or maybe
Right.
a lot of the cutscenes were, pre-rendered, and in the
Yeah.
PS5 version, they are all real time,
Oh, okay.
kind of like in the Last of Us Part One remake thing.
Yeah, yeah. Hmm. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we can loop back around to Prey now, I guess, because you brought that up for a quick second there before it got buried.
Yeah, I mean, we can, but I would
Might as
want
well.
to save some of that discussion or some of the points I have in my head for, some other time, or maybe possibly a video. But, we can talk about it a little.
Okay. Yeah, yeah. You're a big fan of Prey 2006, so
Yeah, I am, but it's kind of funny because it's very personal in a way. It's not.
okay.
I do think it's a really good game, but it's more of a right place and right time thing for me. Like it was on the very cusp of me becoming a more involved gamer. I was still a young guy back then, and I think I read a review of that game in one of those magazines that I collected it, and I
Yeah.
was just like, floored by all of the, creative ideas in that game. And, I was just, fascinated by,
Yeah.
how something like this could be even possible.
Mm-hmm.
Because, back in those days, you kind of treated video games a bit differently. Like, when you're a kid, it's it's different. It's
When you're a
like I
kid, it's all about fun and
remember.
games.
Yeah,
Now that you're an adult, you're
yeah,
like looking deeper into it.
yeah. But I was also kind of it was easier to impress me with a lot of things, like
Right.
graphics and stuff like that. I remember like reading all of those previews for Crisis,
Mm-hmm.
or actually watching those tech trailers that showed off all of the stuff that Crisis was doing, and I was like
Yeah.
deeply fascinated with that. And coming back to Prey, that review also gave it like the highest possible score for visuals, because it
Yeah.
had like back in those days you still had scores in reviews, so you had a visual score that was like 10 out of 10, and I was like, oh yeah, that's my jam. I knew that I probably couldn't run it on my shitty SPC, but I wanted to see it. And then when I actually played it, it was like, it was, I loved it. It was like one of those games that just hooked me in from the start.
Yeah.
I was probably a bit too young to play it, honestly, because that game gets pretty damn dark in some spots.
Yeah.
Like there are scenes where children get impaled by some
Yeah.
demonic ghosts onto the walls.
And then you
You have
fight
that
ghost
yeah,
children.
yeah, ghost children. And your girlfriend gets turned into a cyborg
Yep.
monstrosity that you have to kill, and it's
Yeah.
like
I mean, I'm gonna be honest, like, because I recently beat it, right?
yeah,
And some of those moments where they use like the kid related stuff. I mean, like,
yeah,
there's like one where it's like a kid and they're like, "Mom, Dad," like all this stuff, and you just like hear it while you're crawling through like a crawl space, and I'm like, "Fucking kidding
yeah.
me right now? This is rough, man." Like it kind of like I was like, this is, if I'd have played, if I would have like beat this game before I had a kid, probably would have felt differently. But I have a kid,
Yeah,
so it's
yeah,
like it hits a little bit extra hard.
yeah.
But I like I had a good time with it. I originally played the game back on 360
Oh,
through
okay.
the demo like long time ago. I played the demo.
Mm,
That's all I played. That's the only reason I knew it existed. Then I
yeah.
remember all the buzz around Prey 2,
Oh,
which
yeah,
I
yeah,
want to say that if that game would have released, it would have been a great game probably, but also no, like any original fans of Prey probably wouldn't have liked it because it wasn't the same game at all. It wasn't even
Yeah, it's
remotely the
like
same kind of thing.
I actually thought about this before because like I think we already talked about this like earlier. I really don't like the fact that Prey 2017 is even
Yeah.
called Prey.
Ah,
It's not that I
he
hate.
opened the lid. It's coming
Yeah,
out. No, I'm just kidding.
yeah. Oh yeah.
No.
I'm not a hater of that game. There
Yeah,
are
yeah.
some positives in it, and there is going to be a time and place where I'm able to actually talk about Prey 2017
Yeah,
one day, maybe.
yeah.
But it's like it's just the title that annoys me. But you're right in saying that fans of Prey 2006 would probably like they wouldn't be satisfied with what
No.
Prey 2 would be, because that was like
I mean,
a
there's a
completely different idea
yeah.
for a game. It like had very loose ties to the first one, but on its own like merits, I think that could
It
have
would
been
have been
a
a good game.
really good game.
Yeah.
Like it did things that a lot of games did after. Like it was every FPS game in the 2010s had that wall running
Yeah.
thing or jumping around
Yeah.
the and
I
that
think it
game
inspired a
seemed
lot
to
of things.
be it seemed to me like that was the first that. And like it had this whole cool bounty hunting
Yeah.
mechanic. And then I watched that video that the guy that I think he started People Make Games made,
Yeah.
where he talked about the real ending of
Hmm.
Prey 2 and like the whole plot of the game, where
Yeah.
you would eventually meet Tommy
Hmm.
from Prey 1 and or Demacy,
Yeah.
and then you would go ahead and try to fight the final bad guy, and you would find like thousands of your own corpses because you're actually not a real person but a
Yeah.
clone.
I feel like I read that
And
too. Yeah.
yeah, that was really interesting. And like the whole idea that you then, after beating that final boss, you actually go back to Earth where you like start a family, then you die in your
Hmm.
bed, and it's like a whole cutscene. And then it just cuts to you waking up in your, special clone pod, and you're back
Yeah.
in that city. And that's like
Again.
New
Yeah.
Game Plus. I'm
So,
like that
like,
today it wouldn't be impressive, but in
right.
like 12 years ago or something like that, that
Yeah.
would be fucking nuts.
Well, it's kind of funny how much the like little bit of gameplay and the trailers that we got from that inspired like other things, because
Yeah,
Titanfall would go on to completely popularize
yeah,
wall running in
exactly.
games, and
Yeah,
then the like the whole bounty hunting vibe and the whole thing that it kind of does. I swear to you, High on Life is literally that whole
yeah,
game,
yeah,
but in
yeah.
Rick
I
and
think we
Morty.
talked
Like
about
it's
that. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
High on Life is
It's
literally
exactly
Prey
that.
2, but Rick and Morty. Like it's
Yeah.
it's
If you take
but
away Rick and Morty
yeah,
and that stuff, it's basically the same
yeah,
fucking thing. And
yeah,
actually liked High on Life. It's like
yeah.
it's not
I liked it too.
the best thing to ever exist, but
Right.
it's actually fun in
Yeah,
small
it's a
doses.
pretty good time. It's
Yeah.
not the best thing since sliced bread, right? But it's still a good time.
Yeah.
But also with that, like the whole thing with Prey 2 is it between the wall running, the gameplay, it kind
Yeah.
of like reminded me of the Mass Effect type walking around in hubs, interacting and like
Yeah.
getting
Yeah.
bounties, but then it kind of had a feel of did you ever play Judge Dredd versus Death?
You know what? I think I heard about that one,
Yeah.
but I never played it.
So that one had like a campaign, co-op campaign, and all that stuff. But you could go around, you could like arrest people who are like committing crimes. You could put handcuffs on
Oh,
them. You could just shoot
okay.
criminals in the street. Like you could kind of do these different
Mhm.
things. And there was like vampires and stuff because it's Judge Dredd, but and all this crazy stuff. But you could just like handcuff people and deal with all this stuff. And it kind of reminded me of that too when because I played Judge Dredd on original Xbox. It kind of reminded me when I
Yeah.
saw Prey 2, and I always remember being like, dang, that game looks really cool. I think it was my physical copy of Dishonored that it still has a little leaflet thing, little pamphlet thing that
Oh, okay.
has Prey 2 on it. And
I actually had that game pre-ordered at some point, but Never got
Yeah,
it, obviously,
it's
but
it's still in like a
yeah.
system somewhere. The pre-order is.
Yeah. That's proof that it actually existed,
Yeah, yeah,
Or like when I
something.
found that original demo for the very first version of Time Shift that
Yeah,
I remember like playing back in like 2006 or 2005 and
yeah.
being like, "Oh, this is fucking awesome," but it's like it has this whole diesel punk
Hmm.
visual style, and then the final game was completely different, still pretty good.
Yeah.
I mean, I love it, but most people didn't. But the style was completely different. Everything was completely like the original version had like an actual main character that had voiced lines and everything, and obviously in the 2007 version you had nothing of that.
Right.
They really just went Call of Duty route in that
Yeah, and
regard.
that's kind of like you're saying, how like the proof that it existed, right? Proof that
Yeah,
Prey 2 exists. The thing is with that is like if it wasn't for these little pamphlets and leaflets and like
yeah,
trailers and demos and some of these things, like some games would no longer exist. I
yeah,
mean,
exactly.
it's like I grew up my entire life watching Dawn of the Dead, like the remake. I love it. It's one of my favorite zombie
Okay,
films. And there's a trailer in. I think it's either. I think the trailer's in Dawn of the Dead, and potentially also the Land of the Dead movie, or it might be one or the other. I can't remember 100%. But in one of those two movies, there's a trailer for Land of the Dead: Road to Fiddler's Green, which was a game
okay,
that came out on PC and original Xbox in 2004 or five. And
okay,
so, and it's basically like a linear Dead Island kind of game. Like take the
okay,
original Dead Island and it's like a linear version of that in a way with,
okay.
not it's not great, but it's technically a game made by a branch of um shit, what's it called? They made the Darkness 2 and Warframe. I'm blanking. Uh
Starbreeze? No.
no. I remember
Um,
sis hold on. One quick second.
Digital Extremes?
There you go. Digital Extremes. They're like a
No.
branch of Digital Extremes. They had like another
Okay.
name, but they made that. And then, like, funny enough, later on, there was like a spiritual successor to that game that was like cut content. I forget the name of it. And it was a whole legal thing because, like, technically they didn't develop it, but it was made with the same engine by the same publisher and it was put out just to make money and it was technically like a beta version of it. I don't know. It's a whole thing.
Okay.
Either way, both games are abandonware now.
All right.
And so nobody knows what the fuck Land of the Dead Road to Fiddler's Green is, hardly. You search
Hmm.
YouTube, there's like 5 reviews. I mean, you dig really hard, there might be 10. And it's
Okay.
not that it needs to necessarily be remembered, but it's just like stuff like that. It's abandonware. So, like, it practically doesn't exist unless someone finds a physical copy or a demo or you go to an abandonware site. So most people don't even know it exists. So it's gone. So
I
that's
mean,
where
coming
we're
back to
heading
Prey
with.
2006,
Yeah,
it's kind of abandonware too, because like if
yeah.
you don't source a physical copy, that game is not available
Nope,
anywhere. Like
nope,
nowhere.
nope.
Like
You
the
can't
only
get it
way to
on
play that
Steam,
is to
or
yeah,
PlayStation.
yeah, nowhere. Like the
Or
only way is to have a physical copy.
yep.
And
Or I
that's
mean, you
what
could
I have.
probably pirate it somewhere, maybe.
Uh, that's always the option, but
Yeah,
I'm
I mean, I
talking
think you
about
can
the
pirate like
legal
because
things.
they want, yeah, legal. You want to stick with legal. Not
Yeah.
saying to pirate stuff, but I'm just saying that
No,
they
never.
they probably have it, right? Because I think it was once on PC. There was like a Windows version
Yeah.
or something, and then they got rid of it.
Yeah.
I was
I
talking to
think
someone else about that. I can't
yeah.
remember who. Kirk, maybe.
It,
I think I was talking to Kirk Collects about it, and I think he said there was a Windows version, then they got rid of it, and then
yeah, I think it even was on Steam at some point, but that had to be like a really long time ago.
yeah. And so that
Yeah.
kind of sucks that, I luckily was able to find a physical copy. and I
I
played it
mean,
backwards. It is backwards compatible, I think. Isn't it
yeah,
backwards compatible? Wait, was it? Hold on. No,
I
it's
don't
not
know.
backwards
Hmm.
compatible. I just played it on my Xbox
Oh,
360.
oh, okay.
So, which kind of sucks though. One, it should be backwards compatible. It should be supported. Bethesda owns the rights to it. I don't think it was backwards compatible. Questioning that now.
I think the only reason why they aren't like re-releasing it anywhere is because of the name. They don't want people to be confused about this game and then
Well, they're dumbasses.
2017.
Is the only reason that's confusion.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
them wanting to not lose the rights to the name because they hadn't
yeah,
used it in years is
yeah,
why they used it. They forced it onto another game that was already in development for many many years prior to having the name that had nothing to
yeah.
do with Prey, and they basically
And
had to
they
take it
didn't even
legally.
want the name.
No, Rafael Colantonio came out many times and talked about how he never wanted the name Prey. He said, "Sure,
Yeah.
it kind of worked, but we didn't want it. It was
Does
the
it
game
have
was
anything to do with the
yeah,
game?
and the
Like,
game was done by the time they took the name. Like
yeah,
he's even said like he would have rather called it Typhon or
yeah.
something else. I like the ring of like Neuroshock or something. Like
Oh yeah, I heard about that too. Yeah,
yeah, that would have been so much better
yeah.
than what they
Neuroshock
did.
sounds good.
Yeah. Okay, so wait, no, Prey 2006 is backwards compatible on Xbox like One and Series X. And I
Oh,
think
okay.
you can buy it from the store on the new Xboxes as well
Oh, really?
without a
Oh,
physical copy.
really?
So that would be the most modern way to play it.
Oh,
Now, you might be able to buy it on the store and use the thing like the Xbox whatever app to maybe play it on your computer. I'm not sure.
no, I actually found it on Microsoft Xbox Store,
Yeah.
1999.
Yeah.
Okay, that's
They
interesting.
have a surprising amount of games that are backwards compatible. Like I bought many years ago, I had the Alien versus Predator 2010 game,
Okay,
and I don't know what
yeah,
happened
I
to
like
it.
that one too.
I don't have the physical copy anymore. I don't know what happened to it. So I was like,
Okay,
man, I wonder if that's backwards compatible. And I looked it up and I couldn't find anything. So I went to the store, I looked it up, and I was like, oh shit, there it is. $20. I grabbed it and now I have it. I like that one. It's
yeah.
pretty good.
It's funny, like I think Alpha Protocol isn't available digitally anymore, but I still
Yeah.
own it on Steam because I
Yeah, because you had it before or whatever.
yeah, because I had it before, and that works. Like that's, in my opinion, that's something that's acceptable. If you want to pull your game from a store, you're allowed to, but leave
Yeah.
it,
For the people who
for
bought it.
people that who bought it to access. And like Ubisoft is really terrible at doing that because like I
Yeah.
had multiple Ubisoft games on my Steam account that I just lost. Like they are, I had to buy Anno 2070 like again because it was
Mhm.
just deleted from my library.
Huh.
I think that Call of Juarez Cartel game is not accessible anymore, even though I owned it. It's like they are
Why is it?
really,
It's not. Do they take their games off Steam or something?
it still pops up on that Ubisoft Connect thing, but when
Yeah.
I try to play it, it just says that the license is deactivated or something like that, like
Oh, that's
as
nice.
if they just deleted the access to that game
Yeah,
from
I was
their
talking with
service.
someone in a comments section or something on Twitter or
Yeah,
X, whatever you want to call it. I'm not going to call it X. It's Twitter.
yeah, it's
Um,
Twitter. Yeah.
I'm never going to refer to it as anything else. So,
No.
but I was talking to someone and like it was about that, and they were talking about or it might have been YouTube. They were like, people they can just take your games or whatever. I was like, yeah, that's why I buy mostly physical. I mean, I'm not going to boycott and be like, I'm not going to buy digital games. I don't give a shit enough to do that.
Yeah, well,
I'm
you
still gonna buy
couldn't buy
digital games
Alan
because
Wake 2 then.
yeah, I was like I still gonna buy digital games because I still want to play video
Yeah,
games. Okay, I've been playing these
yeah,
things my entire life and I'm not stopping now.
yeah,
But I still buy physical when I have the opportunity.
yeah,
So
sure.
sure, a lot of games nowadays launch on disc, like everything on the disc. The game's there. It's just not the best. It's not the best version of the game because everything has
Yeah,
a day one patch. But I'm gonna be honest with
yeah,
you, I would rather have even a unoptimized, semi-playable game on a disc that can't be taken away from me versus digital that could be at any time revoked.
Yeah, and I'm okay with day one patches too, but
Yeah.
what I'm not okay with is, I don't remember which game that was, but there was this game that launched like in the last 2 or 3 years that even on consoles it had like only a launcher app on disc, like on actual Blu-ray, it was like 50 megabytes. And the whole game had to be downloaded off of the store to even, to access the game that
Right.
you
What
bought
was
on the
that?
physical disc. I don't remember right now, but I remember there was a very like big controversy surrounding that. And
Yeah.
like, most PC games these days, if you actually find a physical copy, they usually come without, any sort of a disc
Yeah,
today.
it's just a
Like
code.
all of the PC games I bought recently were just codes. Like Company of
So
Heroes
stupid.
3 I bought, it was just a code. It's like,
I've seen Switch games that do that now. Like
yeah,
there's like
that's
Switch games
insane.
that
That's
are
stupid.
too
That's
big to
insane.
put on a cartridge, I guess, or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah.
Like I think it was LA Noire, the
Okay.
remaster for Switch that someone bought me. I still haven't played it on Switch. I played it years ago on Xbox, but it just takes up a lot of space. And it
That's
like I
kind of
got it.
funny that
I
you
open
say
it,
that
it's just a
because,
code, and I'm like,
yeah,
oh, okay.
I think they actually fit the entirety of Witcher 3 on a cartridge.
They did.
Same with Doom
Yep.
2016. So
Mhm.
that's kind of funny.
Yeah. They also did that with like the Dying Light version, along with every
Yeah.
single DLC it has on a cartridge.
Nice.
Um,
Nice. It's apparently
it's
a
called
pretty good version.
optimization. Called
Oh, yeah.
optimization. You know what I mean? Like that's if
That
you don't
thing.
optimize your files, they don't
Oh,
fit.
okay.
You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
that's the issue with storage is they just don't optimize. Like they don't, like Mortal Kombat 1, I love it, right? But it takes up
Yeah.
150 gigs on my storage.
Oh, yeah. I think it had like this free 4K cutscene DLC, right? And it
Yeah, so the
even adds,
cutscenes
yeah,
are download or in 4K, but it's because they're not they're all uncompressed files.
okay,
So they're the whole file. They're not compressed to fit in like you would normally do, so they take up like a lot of space. Like the
yeah, I
90% of the
know.
reason the game takes up 150 gigs is because of uncompressed 4K cutscenes,
Okay,
which
well
is
that
dumb as
sucks.
hell.
Yeah, well, what
Dumb as
can you
hell.
do? Yeah.
But I mean, that's just it kills me when you get like it's like it's kind of funny. Like I bought We Happy Few a while back and I've been playing through it. I got a video planned on it and stuff.
Hmm.
And that game takes up like 15 gigs, a whole game,
Okay.
right? It was a
Okay.
relatively smaller studio, but it's a pretty big
Yeah.
game. It's a long game. There's a lot in it. 15 gigs, and then you go and play something smaller, less complex, just less everything.
Yeah.
Like let's say Call of Duty.
Yeah.
And it takes up 200 gigs
Or more.
or more. Because now with every Call of Duty game, you also have to download Warzone. And you can
Yeah.
choose to download just the campaign, just the multiplayer, or just this. But man, you have no reason for your damn multiplayer only game. Most of them don't even have a campaign anymore. Campaign is 2 hours, 3 hours long. You have
Yeah.
no freaking reason for your game to take up that much damn space. There is no reason known
Yeah.
to man that it takes up that
Yeah.
much space.
I, I have no idea why. It's like,
It's just I
uh,
personally think that that like
yeah.
higher ups are like, okay, do not optimize these files, don't compress anything, don't make it to where it's easier to fit it on their console because the more space we take up, the less they can download and they can only play our game.
Yeah.
I
Well,
think that's what
maybe
Activision would do. So
that would be really fucking evil, but
it's
maybe.
Activision. Come on now.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Evil's in their playbook. That's like step one. I mean,
yeah.
they do shady shit all the time. And
Yeah. They're
But
the
yeah,
closest to Evil Corp from Mr. Robot or
yeah.
stuff like that.
But yeah, okay, but back to Prey. Yeah, I played through and I finally beat it. I
Okay.
love it. I love it. I really do. I always liked it, right? Even when I just played the demo and stuff, it always stuck in my head. One, because of that opening with "Don't Fear the Reaper,"
Yeah. Yeah.
and also
That's
just the
like
fact that you're
still
playing
one
as
of my favorite sections from that game. Just the
yeah, oh
opening,
yeah,
that's just like I will. Yeah,
yeah,
that's one of the best like FPS opening sections that I
oh yeah,
played in my whole life.
yeah. It's by far
That's
one
great.
of the best ever,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
it helps that like that's always been one of my favorite songs for like a long
yeah,
time, and
yeah. I like that song before I knew the game, so that
yeah,
was
yeah,
like
same. And when I heard that, I was like, oh, that's
this
awesome.
is awesome.
But also like just the creativity and like the weapons and the environments and the way they did
Yeah,
puzzles and
it's the Portal game before Portal.
it really is. And
Like
I like to, I
yeah.
think I did it. What was it my it was actually my High on Life video. I mentioned something about Prey. Don't remember what it was about. I'm blanking on it, but I mentioned something about Prey, and I was like, you remember that game Prey? Uh, and then I show Prey 2017, and then I show Prey 2, and then I show Prey the Predator movie, and then I'm like, no, this Prey, the 2006 Prey, because there's so many.
Yeah.
And then
The Prey movie
uh,
is actually alright.
it is actually really. I think it's probably the best one since the original, in my opinion. Like, pretty
Yeah,
damn good.
yeah. Yeah, I like Predator 2, but
Yeah, Predator 2 is good. Concrete
yeah,
Jungle.
yeah. But Prey is really good.
Yeah, I But anyway, in that thing, then I was like, I did the scene from Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, where Brad Pitt's on the couch and Leonardo DiCaprio's on the
Oh yeah,
chair, and he
yeah, yeah.
points at the TV
That
while he's
meme, yeah,
smoking. Yeah, and I
yeah.
did that with like I put Morgan Yu's face over Brad Pitt, and then I put Tomasi's face over um uh
Yeah.
yeah his face, and then it was like the point, and then I was like, "Gotcha, bitch!" And then about the portal before portal, because I'm telling you right now, it happens all the time though. Like Prey was the first game like that with portals, but then Portal came along and it's Valve, and they're like, that was a pretty good
Yeah,
idea. Let's steal it. And then
yeah,
they're the ones who are known for having portals in games. And guess what? Nobody else uses portals until Splitgate, and then that game died. So
yeah.
that was a cool idea. And then, you got like Gears of War
And if you use
popularized the
them,
cover
then
based
yeah,
shooter. What is it?
yeah. Yeah, I was just saying that if you use portals today, it's like, oh, you're obviously
Yeah.
inspired by that Valve's game, and
Yeah.
they will never mention Prey, nor its like,
Yeah, no, ever.
earliest iteration from the 90s.
Nope.
It's
Nope.
like kind of
Never.
insane.
But yeah, and then like, Gears of War like popularized over the not over the shoulder. Cover based shooting mechanics, and I still think
Yeah,
it
yeah.
probably does them the best. But there was
Probably, yeah.
actually a game before Gears of War that did cover based shooting on like original Xbox or PS2 or something. Don't know the name of it. I just saw it in some kind of like interview that Cliff Bleszinski did with somebody who was talking about, hey, before we were doing this, like we were inspired by Resident Evil 4 because of the over shoulder, but then
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
when we went to do the cover based stuff, like we were looking around like, did anybody else do something like this? And we saw like one game, and I forget what he said it was, and they did that. It wasn't a great game, and it wasn't like it didn't do it very well or whatever, but there was something before. And then you go to like Borderlands, like that popularized the looter shooter. I still think that those games do it better than most. But then
Yeah.
there's actually some game developer who's pretty big who made a game also on a generation prior to Borderlands, who made a looter shooter before they were even a thing. It was like a third person action game or something. I don't remember what it's called. But that's the
Hmm.
point. You don't remember what it's called. Nobody knows what the hell Prey 2006 is. They know what Portal is, though. You know what I mean? Like, nobody knows
Yeah.
what those games are, but they know Gears of War and Borderlands. That happens a lot, that people like steal something else's thunder, and it's usually from something that wasn't popular and wasn't that successful. Except in this case, Prey 2006 was pretty successful and was very popular. But then it just kind of like
Yeah.
never got its sequel. never had a follow up, and its sequel died, and then it just kind of like kept falling and falling further into cult status, you know. And I
Yeah,
think
into
that's
obscurity, right?
yeah, and I think it's kind of ironic because like Prey 2017 also is a cult status game. It's gotten more
Yeah,
popular over the last couple of years when it hit Game
yeah,
Pass
mostly
because like
because of YouTube.
yeah, YouTube and Game Pass. Game Pass is
Yeah,
literally the
yeah,
only reason that YouTube made
yeah,
it popular because I bought the game the day it came out. I pre-ordered it. I picked it up at GameStop. I
yeah,
played the
yeah,
shit out of it, and I knew it was fucking amazing before anybody else knew it was amazing, right? Nobody was talking about it. Everybody's like, oh, it's just kind of meh. It's kind of like this. And then was it
yeah.
like
That's
two
what I
like
felt, and
right.
still kind of.
And that's fine, right? You know, for me it's like one of
Yeah,
my favorite games of all time. Everything just clicked
yeah,
with things that I like, and that works, right? But like 2 years ago it came out on like Game Pass, and then all of a sudden there's fucking essays everywhere. It's like
yeah.
praise amazing, praise an underrated masterpiece, praise this, praise that. I'm like, where the fuck have you guys been? Where the hell have you guys been this whole time?
Yeah,
I've been shouting
yeah.
this game's name to the high heavens, and where have you been? Huh? Where have you been? You got it for free, and now you just want to talk about it all the time. Um, but
Yeah,
I'm glad that it
it's
got some
like,
recognition, right? Finally.
yeah,
And I've seen a few people who have brought recognition to 2017 who also take the time in their video to be like, there's also this other awesome game with the same name. And they talk about Prey 2006, and that's cool to see too.
yeah. I think G-Man Lives did a very good video on Prey 2006.
Yeah.
Yeah, I usually do not really like his videos, but that one was pretty good, and he kind of pointed out all of the things that I actually liked about that
Yeah.
game. So, if anybody's listening to this, go and watch that video.
I hope somebody's
Well,
listening to this.
yeah, in the future.
Yeah, in the future.
Yeah,
Wait, are they
yeah, in the
listening
future.
now?
Yeah,
Dun,
maybe,
dun,
maybe.
dun.
Say something if you're listening to this, please. No, but it's of course it's gotten popular on YouTube, but I still feel like it's kind of ironic that initially, at least initially, Prey 2017 kind of ended up in the same place that Prey
Oh
2006
yeah,
ended up in.
100%.
Like, isn't like there was this video by Game Maker's Toolkit, right, that talked about
Glue
Deathloop
gun?
being
Oh, I know which one you're talking about. I know which one you're
Deathloop
talking about.
being an exact copy of Mooncrush, right?
Yeah.
And it's like it kind of saddens me that it's like it happened not twice but thrice actually, because Prey 2 never came out, that this title kind of went into complete fucking obscurity because I don't know, it was released in the wrong time or something, like
We talking about 2017 or 2006 or both?
I
Or
mean, all of them
yeah,
basically.
all the praise. Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, all
it
the
is
praise are
true.
just cursed. They are
It
just
is true
cursed.
though.
That name
But
is
it's
cursed.
also, I
And I
think
even
to
heard
double.
people saying that the
Huh?
Prey movie is
Oh,
fucking awful. So
yeah. I
it's
don't know
it's
what.
a fucking curse name.
Yeah, it's okay for people to be wrong, but
Yeah,
but no, I mean, it's so weird because it's also like Prey 2017. I think got hit even harder than like. I mean, now it's more popular, right? But like
yeah,
2006 still
much
kind of
more
had a fan
popular.
base and was like pretty well known. 3D Realms, and like all
Yeah,
this stuff. But 2017, I mean, the thing is that Arcane after like Dishonored got big, but Arcane's still to this day not a household name. Like you can't go to like your buddy's house and talk about Arcane. You can't like talk to someone's dad about Arcane. Like they don't know who the fuck Arcane is. Nobody knows who Arcane is. Like there's such a big studio that's been like this AAA studio for 10, 15 years making games with the heart of AA, yet nobody knows who they are. And I think between like nobody knowing who they are, how hard it is to market an immersive sim alongside having the name Prey, which is already going to hurt you. And then also marketing the game and trailers from the marketing team at Bethesda, making it look like a fucking action game, was also bad.
yeah.
Because it's not an action game. It's an immersive sim that has guns, but the guns are tools, not really guns. Like if you
Yeah.
play Prey, if you play Prey like an action game, it's going to be like playing Resident Evil 7 like an action game. Like just
Or
using your
or
like you
playing the original Dead Space as an
yeah,
action
like
game.
you're gonna have no ammo and you're gonna get fucked.
Yeah.
Like it's simple. Like
Fucked
you're
over,
gonna
yeah.
have nothing because Prey has a little bit of those like survival horror elements and like you gotta like be careful with the way you approach situations and stuff like that.
And that's what's beautiful about Prey 2006. It's an FPS game. It's, it's very
It's very
creative. You
simple.
can,
No,
it's
I'm just kidding.
very well, it's simple in the gameplay
Yeah.
regard in a lot of spaces, but it's,
But
it's
the way it
very creative.
crafts its levels is
Yeah.
fantastic.
I mean, it's kind of funny that, it's a game that is built for, having this like really big success, but
Yeah.
it just didn't. It's like if you think about, games from, the mid 2000s, like most people would probably talk about, Half-Life 2,
Yeah.
Far Cry, maybe somebody would mention Prince of Persia, but I doubt it.
Yeah.
They would mention Portal. They would mention, Call of Duty 4 because that was such a big step. They would probably mention Doom 3 if we're being honest. But I doubt that.
They used to probably they would mention
Yeah.
BioShock, but nowadays everybody hates BioShock apparently. So.
Oh yeah. I
It's just
mean,
weird.
to be honest with you, I kind of. It's not that I hate BioShock. I accept it. I liked it back in the day. I kind of, enjoyed the whole gameplay loop, and the story was actually pretty good for its time, and the that whole plot twist thing got to me. But looking at it from today and comparing it to all of these titles that came after, it's like it's the middle ground between something like System Shock and something much simpler. So it's like
because it's not
maybe
an immersive sim. It's more more linear action focused, but not quite infinite action, right?
Yeah, it's not an FPS per se, but it's more of an FPS than a System Shock like. Yeah. So that's kind of funny, but I think it's on purpose because Ken Levine spoke about it, that he actually, I don't remember, was he involved in making Deus Ex? I don't remember.
No, he wasn't. I mean, unless he was like, their studio was like neighbored with Looking Glass, while he was making, they were developing System Shock 2 at the same time as Deus Ex.
Yeah, I think he was talking about System Shock 2 or something like that. He was talking about making a game that was, more accessible, like that was still kind of true to that whole, System Shock
to a degree
kind of vibe, but it was, simpler in the gameplay regard. And they kind of did that.
I mean, they nailed it with BioShock. It is one of the simplest forms of an immersive sim-like game you could probably hit. And if it wasn't for BioShock, I tell people this all the time, whether you like it or hate it, if you're a fan of immersive sims, if it wasn't for BioShock, we wouldn't have any of them that we have today. They wouldn't exist.
Probably that was, one of those games that kept, that fire going.
That's the game that made immersive sim, like even that design philosophy, a household kind of name. That's the only reasons big studios were like, oh, this is an immersive sim? Hell yeah, we need to make more of those. Like, I don't think Dishonored would have happened if it wasn't for BioShock, right? I don't think, Prey definitely wouldn't have happened if it wasn't for Prey is too much of an immersive sim. It would have never happened. Like, Prey wouldn't have happened if Dishonored wasn't such a freaking massive success, because Prey is not a game that in any metric had a chance of selling well at all.
Yeah.
It never would have happened. It's never going to happen again for a very long time.
Yeah, looking at, Deathloop or whatever the fuck Redfall was.
Yeah, Deathloop is the same approach as BioShock. It's like, hey, immersive sims don't sell very well, and our last few games
so let's make it a shooter.
Shit. Let's make it a shooter that kind of is still an immersive sim, but it's a lot more approachable for your regular everyday person.
it's kind of an immersive sim because you jump around a lot and you can die pretty easily. That's pretty much it.
Jump around and
Yeah.
I mean, it has like that creative approach. It has
the loop thing itself is interesting.
Choice, but not much because it's more like Dishonored with guns meets Hitman, because you're trying to play out everything in a non-linear way to get to a predetermined linear conclusion that can't really change. The ending is largely the same no matter what. You have to get everyone together in the same place to all die in the same day, and that's how you get the ending.
Yeah.
So, I mean, but it also is their most successful game since Dishonored, and is the only reason why Arcane Leon is now making a Blade game, which I'm pumped for.
And not Redfall 2.
Yeah, Arcane Austin's going to have to do some self-reflection for a while.
Oh, yeah. Some self-penance, too.
Yeah, Rafael Colantonio was talking about how he's been playing Redfall.
Oh, really?
On Twitter, yeah.
Does he like it?
I don't know. I'm pretty sure he's going to say... I think he said that, like, he's he's enjoying it. He can see the flaws, but whatever. You know, I mean, he used to work at Arcane, and I don't think he wants to hurt anybody's feelings, but...
I still haven't played Weird West, so that's something I'll
Weird West is a good one. I know some people are mixed about, like, I mean, because it is still an immersive sim, just from an asymmetric perspective, or an isometric perspective. And, you know, some people are like, well, it's not an immersive sim. Immersive sim has to be first person. I was like, that's not even true. Have to be the perspective isn't what matters. The philosophy is what matters, not the camera angle. The camera angle doesn't mean shit. As long as you can still have creative freedom for approach, choices.
I mean, the philosophy itself is hard to define at times. So, like, why can't you just, use any, camera perspective that you want to, try and get to it?
Yeah, and immersive sims kind of tend to have, choice and consequence with different things. Like the world is affected by your actions, but you also have creative freedom to approach every situation. Each situation has multiple outcomes. That kind of stuff is like, and obviously the systems, like the AI, taking a barrel. Like in Weird West, you can take a barrel, you can pick it up. You can put corn in it, and then you can catch the barrel on fire, and popcorn starts coming out of it. That kind of stuff is like immersive sim stuff. You can catch a chicken on fire, and it can run around and catch the hay on fire, and then you can throw some oil over there, and then it'll burn down the house and kill all the enemies, kind of thing. Like that kind of stuff. You get caught on fire, you jump in the water, the fire's gone. I mean, it's like simple old school CRPG kind of elements.
Yeah. I mean, Baldur's Gate 3 did that too, right?
Yeah, you can. I mean, I think some people consider it an immersive sim kind of game.
Yeah, in some regard, it could be considered that. Yeah, you can spill oil on the ground and set it on fire. Like you can freeze blood from corpses that you, from enemies that you killed, and then if they walk on it, they will, fall over and stuff like that. It's, obviously it's not a full-on immersive sim, but it's,
it's more of a Dungeons and Dragons style CRPG, but with immersive sim elements.
I mean, every good game has to, include some of those elements, right? Yeah. It's like, the more interactive your world is, the better for the game, right?
That's another thing. Is like I think also like immersive sims are. Just about everything can be interacted with. Like if you go play Prey, like you can. I mean, if you can see it, you can probably pick it up. And that's like
That's I think that was my biggest issue of that game because I don't know if I told. No, it's I don't know if we talked about this before, but sure. I used get to that escape pod at the Arboretum, right?
Yeah,
and I used it very very early on.
Yeah.
And I walked into it, and then, I got that cutscene that, fake ending thing that, basically spoiled the ending for me. Yeah. And I was like, oh, fuck, all of this is a simulation. And it's like, I wasn't even half the way through it. And I was just kind of like, oh, so it doesn't matter what I do. It really took me out of the experience, but then I also kind of, remind myself that it's kind of my own fault for being, to be for being too abusive with all of those systems, right? Like
Yeah.
abusing them to the point of kind of breaking the game.
Yeah, I
But
mean, but the thing
then
is
I
that
guess
like
I have,
you can get that ending,
yeah,
like you can get the key card, open the bridge, walk over there and get the ending before you get near the end of the
yeah,
game. I did
yeah,
in my first playthrough. It didn't ruin it
yeah.
for me. It just made me be like, wait, there's something else going on here. Like it was like, okay, there's a hidden veil here. There's like a, is it a simulation within a simulation? What's going on? And I mean, the ending still worked for me. I don't think it's the best ending or the worst ending, but there's too much for me to love in that game to allow something like that to affect it. It's just
I
I'm
think,
a huge like I don't know, I'm a sucker for details. I'm a sucker for the small
yeah,
things. I appreciate the small things. The music, the sounds, the atmosphere, the world building. I mean, I
yeah,
don't think anybody has done audio logs better than that game ever. Ever.
hmm,
Because instead of being like these unrealistic things like BioShock and Dead Space and
yeah.
others, where like it's the most unrealistic shit ever. Like you just turn on this damn gramophone recording device to like record yourself talking about how you're about to die. Come on, man! Like 5 minutes before you're about to, you could have taken that time to jump out the window and
Log
kill
number
yourself or something, or
2024.
yeah, or
I'm
go
going
over
to die
there.
in 5 minutes.
Yeah, like what is wrong with you? Just try to do something. Try to escape. You probably got a gun right next to you. Instead of like recording, it sounds like they were predicting the future of like people recording everything in their lives nowadays. It's, I mean, it'd be
It's
like
kind of
somebody sitting
insane.
there recording themselves on Instagram while they're being like tracked down by a serial killer or something, and then they die because they're stupid. It's
That's a good
like,
idea for a movie.
yeah, let me write that down real quick.
Yeah,
But no, it's like, but Prey, what I think is great about its audio logs is it's not that. Like it's not,
yeah,
hey, this is a dude talking to a thing, but these blah blah blah, It's transcribes of like people having conversations before everything went wrong or leading up
hmm,
to everything going wrong. And it's like usually two people having a conversation because it's a device where they can call each other. It's never like a single person hardly talking to themselves. You usually get that in like the emails and the notes on people's
yeah.
computers, which is just another added element of like lore and world building and stuff that
Kind
that
of
game
reminds
has.
me of what that game that the Gone Home guys did. I think it's called Tacoma. You know that one
Yeah,
when
Tacoma.
where
Yep.
you are, yeah, where you are on that space station and you basically go from one room to the other and
Yeah.
kind of uncover what happened by listening to conversations between people. And I
Right.
do think that's an interesting idea in
Yeah.
its in itself. So I can appreciate that at least.
Yeah. And I mean, there's also like so much, a lot of like books and things like that. You'd find like if you're playing a Skyrim or an old RPG or whatever, like you find all these books and things that like give hints or you know can further explain things that you maybe didn't even think about, like tiny details. I mean, it's just like there's something that I mentioned in my like love letter to Prey video where there's baseball gloves and baseballs like all over the station, right?
Okay.
Like everywhere. You'll find them as a miscellaneous pickup everywhere. You're like, why in the fuck is there
Okay.
damn baseball gloves everywhere? Like, they just really love baseball or some shit? You can find a place in the arboretum near the edge of like one of the sides where like people put down um two plates and they were like where they were like tossing baseballs back and forth. And
Okay.
and it's cool. It's a cool thing. But you're like, okay, so they just like baseball, I guess. Well, no, there's actually a reason why there's baseballs and gloves all over the place. They had a professional baseball player come to the station, which is explained in emails and a couple transcribes and stuff that you can find if you look for them, right? And the guy came there, he brought a bunch of baseballs and gloves for the whole station. And he was there so they could show off the whole neuromod thing. And I think they used, a sample from him and stuff. I can't remember if he made it off the station or not, though. But anyway, that
I
explains
don't
why.
remember that at all.
Yeah, because it's a side detail. You don't have to. It
Yeah.
just doesn't. The game does. That's another thing. Like the game's story, like the main plot line, like from point A to B, is pretty simple. It's just like, get off the station. Your brother's kind of evil, I guess. Figure it out.
Yeah.
But that's not the story. The story is in the world. The story is the computers and the transcribes and the
Yeah.
every single body on the station having a real name that you can track down from the security stations. The books you find, the locations you visit, the writing on the walls, I mean, these are all like that's the story. Finding a pointless detail that never even needed to be added into the game because no one is going to really care, like explaining that they brought a baseball star to the station to use the neuromod stuff on him and he brought people baseballs and gloves. You don't have to explain that. People can just be like, okay, I guess they just really like baseball for some reason, even though half of them aren't even American, you know?
Yeah.
Um, but they did explain it. And I think that's not only like a charm of Arcane, but also immersive Sims. They go out of their way to put like an insane amount of details and even explaining the most minute of things. And even though
Yeah.
and they put these things in there and they put these systems in there and these details in there that there's a more than a 90% chance that most people who play the game will never experience it. But they do it anyway.
Okay.
Because
Yeah.
that's part of the
That's
immersive
probably
sim design
why
philosophy.
they work better in like, smaller spaces, smaller
Yeah.
hubs and stuff like that. It wouldn't really be feasible to do something on a scale of, let's say, I don't know, Horizon Forbidden West.
No.
That level of detail is just, you can make a detailed world, but giving it so much substance, it's
Yeah.
just, yeah, it's
And I mean and like, Prey as a world that for the most part, like it has people in it that are alive, but you don't know that for a long
yeah,
time. For a world, for like a location for a space station, which not only that, you can travel outside of said space station.
yeah,
You
yeah,
only technically have to do it like twice in the main story, but you can do it a lot more times if you're going to do explore and stuff that you can find that explains a lot of things. Um, but you don't
yeah.
have to.
That's
That's the
one
thing.
of the
You don't
things
have
that
to.
I did like, the whole fact that you can like, leave the space station
Yeah.
and actually look at it from the outside, and the whole space station actually makes sense as a
Yep.
one big location,
Yep.
even though it's divided into load screens and
Yeah,
stuff
and
like
the
that.
funny part
I
about the load screen thing is like even when you do load into another place, everything that you left behind is still there.
yeah,
Like there's still
yeah,
enemies like in real time in those locations. So like mimics and phantoms and stuff move in real time behind the scenes even when you're loading. Like they're still doing things. Like they're actually naturally like an ecosystem, like like they're naturally moving around the station
yeah,
as you're doing other stuff. And like if you put
mm,
a glue staircase in one location, you come back 20 hours later, it's still there. So like it's all instanced. I think they had to do loading screens just because it was a last gen game, like that generation game. I think that's the only reason they had to do
yeah.
that. I think now, like on a
Well,
Series X, if it released today, they could easily do it because the load screens now on the Series X, like the FPS boost and all that stuff, the load screens are like less than 30 seconds. Like they're instant almost. Like they're so fast. It's not even a problem anymore.
yeah. Well, I think I spoke about that whole thing of me getting out of being immersed in
Yeah.
Prey 2017, and kind of ruining that game for me, like by myself, by abusing those game systems. I think the other thing is, I don't know if you played Get Even. It's a game by Farm 51, a Polish studio. It came out the same year as Prey.
No, I have not played or heard of it. What is
Yeah,
it?
yeah. It's basically uh, sort of an FPS stealth game with a very, very heavy emphasis on the storytelling. Like
Okay.
it's kind of an how to call it. It's kind of a walking simulator in a way, but
yeah, that's fine.
it
Yeah,
isn't because because there's like combat in it.
Yeah, okay.
But the problem is that that game, and this is spoiling the plot.
Oh, good.
It kind of revolves around you being in a simulation of somebody's mind,
Okay.
and then when you realize that and you think you finally get what is going on, then you realize that that simulation is actually a simulation that is happening in somebody else's mind.
Okay.
And there are layers to it. It's like I really like that idea in that game, and I really appreciate the plot of that game because it's kind of interesting. If you ever get to play it, then you obviously should.
What's it on?
You know what? I can't get you the details right now because it's like it's been a really long time since I last played it, but it's mostly about a guy trying to solve a mystery surrounding his family member's death. It's
Oh wait,
kind of like that. And
I've seen the cover art for it before.
yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah, okay, I've seen this. Yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah,
have to check it out.
and
Yeah,
I
I've seen it
think
before.
Olivier Derivière made music for it.
All right,
That
I'm
guy
sold. That's all
who
I'll take.
made
I'm done. I'm gonna get it.
yeah.
I love
That
that
guy
game.
who made music for Plague Tale and
Plague Tale Innocence,
so many
Plague Tale Requiem. He made it for
Requiem,
Vampire.
Vampire, yeah. He made music for Remember Me,
Yeah,
another
he also
great
did it
game that.
for an RPG that I love called the Technomancer.
Oh yeah.
Also,
I
I think he did.
never played it, but I know
Yeah, it's
it.
very Mass Effect like kind of.
Okay.
He
Is
also
it
did it
by the same people
for.
who made Mars Warlogs?
Yeah, it's Spiders. Yeah, the guys who also made
Okay, yeah.
Still Rising and Greedfall and all that. Yeah, I think he also did the music
Yeah.
for Greedfall as well.
Yeah, he also did music for Alone in the Dark, 2008.
Oh, did he? Okay, interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
That game is a piece of shit, but that music, man,
Yeah, I
it's
talked
great.
to Medium about my experience with Alone in the Dark 2008. I played it. I actually really liked it because I played like the first little bit. But the only reason I never played more of it and never beat it was because I got rid of it. Because at the very beginning of the game, when you do that driving sequence,
Oh yeah, that's horrible.
the game broke. Like it just quit working. Like it crashed every time I hit the ramp at the end, and then it just broke every time. I even restarted it. I
was it
cleared
on
the
the
cache.
Xbox or?
It was on Xbox 360, yeah.
Oh, okay.
I mean, I cleared the cache on the Xbox. I deleted the save. I started another time. It was broke every time. I just got a copy of the game that was broke. I mean, that was a time where like they didn't really patch things that often, especially for a game like that bombed so quickly.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
I mean, what you got?
You couldn't rely on getting updates from from the devs from like day of the release or day one patches and stuff like that. So but I'm rambling. What I wanted to say is what I wanted to say is the fact that that game could even use that plot point. And I really enjoyed it, made it so that when I actually realized that Prey is, you start off in a simulation, then you go on through, the whole station, and then you realize it's yet another simulation. Was like, it's obviously impossible that, they got inspired by that game because they released in the same year. So it's obviously completely independent accident, and it's completely random that it even happened.
It's also kind of done a little differently, but it's very similar.
Yeah. But it's it kind of took away from the experience for me, and like in my first playthroughs of I'm mostly the story, immersing myself in the game, and kind of trying to play it with without that whole analytical approach, without like trying to see how it all works, but just trying to get into this world and live in it for a little while. So when when this happened, when I realized that everything I did on that station didn't, it did matter in the end because of that whole ending thing, but it didn't matter in a sense that it wasn't, it was a virtual space in a virtual space in a, in a video game. It
Yeah.
kind of, broke it for me. So I
It leaves
didn't
a lot
really,
of
you
questions.
know, yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
like,
I
did
didn't
your
really engage it after.
right, right, right. And I mean, like,
Yeah.
the whole thing of like that's a lot. A lot of people say that about the ending, like, oh, well, everything just didn't matter. But it's like, I mean, kind of, it's like a simulation of Morgan's events or what we think might have been events that happened with Morgan. I mean, for all we know, Morgan could just be fake, though. Like he could be a made up character in a made up simulation of a made up thing.
Yeah.
But
That's
there's
why
no
he can be both male and female, right?
exactly. I mean, there's no definite like way to go about. There's so many ways that you can, you know, interpret
Yeah.
everything, and as well as like just the ending and the different ways that can go. But and the other like theme that's just like a Raphael Colantonio thing is just morality and like the human element, what it means to be human. That's something he puts into
Yeah.
every game he's made, like Dishonored and Arx Fatalis and Weird West. Like he just puts it in all of them. That's just something he loves to do. And I don't know, it all kind of like came together and it clicked for me. But I can see how other people wouldn't like it, or elements that whatever. But there's actually it's kind of decently well done that they actually tease like it all being a simulation like several times throughout the game when you get those like flashback
Yeah.
things, like the little like headache things or whatever that happen a couple times throughout the main story, where he kind of like sees like glance like kind of like glances of like reality with Alex and stuff like at different points.
Yeah.
And kind of the way like the escape pod ending is, where it doesn't really show him. It just says like, "Oh, this ain't the one," and like
Yeah.
whatever. But yeah, I mean, it is what it is. But I'm glad that it's gotten more attention. I hope that Prey 2006, man. They just need to like, I don't know, like they need to re-release it or something. Like the crazy part is that
Yeah.
like Prey 2017 would have been so much more successful if they would have allowed them to just uh name it whatever they wanted to, and then they
Yeah.
just re-released Prey 2006, because they could have kept the license if they just like remastered Prey 2006 or something. Just like, hey,
Yeah.
look,
Or
now
just
it's 1080p.
Or just release, or just release it again.
Yeah, or just release it again, like make it to where it's
I,
actually
I
playable.
mean, they don't even have to remaster it.
No.
It works out of the box. I just
Well, yeah,
installed it
and
on
they
my PC and it just works. So
yeah, and
it even
the
works on my Steam Deck without
oh,
any
nice.
additional fuckery. So
Huh.
I was playing that this week. So
Oh, that's cool.
probably
Yeah.
after we're done, I'll
Gonna play
go
more.
and play it some more. Yeah.
Yeah, if like when you play the one that I like, the version I beat, which was the backwards compatible like 360
Yeah.
physical copy on uh the Series X, they gave it an FPS boost and
Oh, nice.
they gave it like an HDR thing or whatever. Like it looks smoother, it
Oh,
plays, it's basically remastered without being
okay.
remastered in a sense. Like it runs at higher frames, it
That's
looks a
very
little bit
nice.
smoother, the loading screens are faster. It's
Yeah, the HDR thing sounds cool. Yeah.
yeah, and so it's pretty awesome, and I'm like, okay, yeah, cool, but you guys could have done this differently.
I mean, it's one of those ID Tech 4 games that
Oh yeah,
use the stencil shadow things. So
yeah.
really good blacks are probably something that you need. So I'm
Oh
glad
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah,
the Steam Deck has an OLED panel. So
yeah.
it really looks quite good on that. And I'm surprised how well Steam Deck works on like simulating a mouse and keyboard setup,
Yeah.
even without doing much. So that's it's kind of enjoyable to play on such a small thing.
That would be cool, dude. I would love to play Prey 2006 on Steam Deck. I would like to. I would
Yeah.
like if it didn't cost so much and I didn't have to invest so much money into a Steam Deck.
Yeah,
I'd
yeah, yeah.
love to play Prey 2017 like in my hands. Like I would. I would do.
Yeah,
I'm
I'm
like,
thinking about trying that. Yeah.
yeah, I'm simple in that regard with certain things. Like man, I love video games and I have such a passion for them. But like sometimes it's just like little things. It's like, I mean, hey, I can play it on my Switch. I don't give a
Yeah,
damn if it's not as good of a version, but I can do it, right? Like Dying Light on Switch
yeah,
is pretty decent. It's impressive. It's an impressive feat. It's kind of like Borderlands 2 on the PS Vita. I mean, it's not the best version, but
yeah.
shit, it runs pretty decently. It works pretty
I mean,
well.
yeah, I like the Switch, as an idea, but I
Yeah.
just think that the thing that the Steam Deck does better is just the fact that it's an actual PC. It's like
Yeah.
you can basically do anything you want with this, and you know, uh, I didn't read a guide on how to install Prey. I just extracted the folder from my PC
Yeah.
and downloaded it on the Steam Deck, and it just works. So it's like
That's awesome. Yeah.
that's yeah, that's awesome, and it's like that's impossible on basically any system
Yeah.
outside of PC or Linux. So that's great, and
That's good.
it's the most convenient option for me right now because I my main PC right here where I'm sitting is at my office, so I don't really have as much time to play games on this. I usually tend to work on this PC and not play games here. So
Right.
the Steam Deck is a solution where I can just go anywhere I want, and I can probably play anything I want. Like
Yeah.
obviously I can't like run a modern game like I can't run Starfield at even 30 FPS because Starfield is fucking
Yeah.
complicated. But
Yeah.
I think I played Spec Ops: The Line in like locked 90 FPS, and
Oh, nice.
I played Sunset
Yeah.
Overdrive in like locked 60 FPS. So
Oh, sweet.
games from few years back that are
Yeah.
awesome, and they look awesome and they work very
That's
well
good.
on that system. So
Yeah.
it's like it's kind of funny, but I'm unable to even start any of the Dead Space games on my main PC except for Dead Space 3. But that game has some really weird issues with performance on my rig.
Oh,
But
okay.
on the Steam Deck, it's basically perfect. Like
Huh.
even 2008, like the original Dead Space, it just works, and it works fine, and it looks fine, and
Yeah,
it's
it's good.
just
I mean,
it's amazing.
what do you think about Prey 2006's id cousins, Doom 3 and Rage? What do you think about those?
You know what? I really like Doom 3. Like Doom 3 is one of those like maybe not first FPS games that I played, but one of those FPS games that I actually remember really enjoying when I played it. Obviously, it was a bit
Yeah.
scary for me back then because I was a fucking kid,
Yeah, same.
but but it was one of those formative
Oh yeah.
gaming experiences. And Rage, well, Rage is kind of weird because it's like it was a really ambitious game for its
Hmm.
time, but kind of I don't know, it felt soulless to me in many aspects. It's like it wanted to be kind of a open world title, but then it kind of
Very
didn't want
linear.
to be it. Yeah, it's really linear, and I don't know. It's just I never really enjoyed it all that much, and I was very surprised to see them actually going and making Rage 2, which also wasn't like a good game at all. Like it was okay,
Yeah.
but it's
The
like
only
the
thing good about
the
Rage 2 is the
yeah.
gameplay. That's it.
Yeah. The shooting is great because I think ID
Yeah, they did
software,
that.
right? They did that, and yeah, the shooting part it's great, but the world and like
Yeah.
the campaign that lasts for like I don't
You know
know
what the
2 hours
ironic part
for
of that?
yeah
Avalanche made everything else in the game minus the shooting, and they're the people who made Mad Max.
yeah, and they made
But Mad
Just
Max
Cause
was,
games.
yeah, and Mad Max though is also a game in a post-apocalypse desert world that feels
Yeah,
10 times more alive, but yet also
yeah,
more desolate, and had a better story than Rage 2.
yeah.
And Rage 2's
I
story
really
is
need to
no
get
shit
back to
2
it.
hours. Like,
Yeah. It's like 2 or 3 quests, right? And
Yeah,
then
it's
you
terrible.
can go to the main
Yeah.
guy and just kill him off, and that's it.
I mean, I
Yeah,
enjoyed the
yeah.
combat enough that I was able to like drag myself through like 40 hours um
Okay.
of doing like side stuff, but it wasn't like all I was doing was playing Rage 2. Like I was just playing it like in between other things. Just as
Yeah,
like, hey, I'm
yeah,
going to sit down and just like play a stupid game to just like pass the time for a
yeah.
few minutes, and that's what I did. And I ended up putting a lot of time into it, and then I beat it. I did eventually. I did buy the DLC, which is like it is good because it's more combat, but I beat the game, and like every time I play it, I'm just like, man, this I hate playing this game because like the combat's great, but everything else sucks. Like the world sucks, the story sucks, the
Yeah,
AI sucks, the cars suck. You don't even need cars when you get that flying thing. Like everything sucks,
yeah.
but the combat is great. If they would just made this linear, it would have been great. And I actually
Yeah,
think that
but for some reason they made yeah.
I think the openish element of Rage 1 was fine. Like it wasn't great, it wasn't spectacular, it wasn't
Yeah.
amazing, but it was fine. I actually liked Rage. I'm probably one of the few people who do, I guess, but
Mm.
I enjoyed the story, I enjoyed the combat, and I liked it was kind of like I, I
It also
always
had plenty of technical issues, if you remember.
I don't really. I played it on Xbox 360
Oh,
at
well, on
launch.
PC,
Oh, okay,
because of
yeah.
that whole mega texture thing, it
Oh, yeah.
was like a lot of, the basically the texturing for the world, but a lot of actual like geometry didn't load in for like
Yeah.
minutes or
Oh, okay.
more at the time. So
I know that
it's
it's looked at, it's
it,
frowned upon more
yeah,
on PC than console.
yeah.
Or
It worked kind of very, very, weirdly on
right.
most PCs back in the day, and I think that even today most PCs have issues with running that game. So
Yeah.
something definitely, went wrong on, on
Yeah.
the development of that game. And I think Doom 2016 actually had some elements of the mega texture technology in it,
Yeah.
and that's why some of the texturing work and some of the elements of the game look kind of plasticky. But then Doom Eternal kind of got rid of all of that, and that's
Yeah.
why it's such a big jump when it comes to, the amount of detail and everything. I really love Doom Eternal, by the way,
Oh, yeah, Doom Eternal
but
is phenomenal.
that's
I love that
yeah,
game.
yeah.
So good.
I really, I can't understand why, some people say that it's fucking awful, but
Yeah,
to
I
me
don't get that.
yeah, to me it's like one of the best games of the decade, basically.
Yeah, I definitely would say it's up there, man. Like, I mean, I played through it
Yeah,
on, I guess would be hard mode, like first
yeah,
time, 100% of it. Like, I did everything. I did every side thing, all the trial, whatever things. I
yeah, yeah.
loved that game. By the time I like rolled credits, I was like, holy shit, this was a great game. I haven't played the
Yeah.
DLC yet, but
Oh, you should.
I need
It's
to do
a
that.
bit difficult at times, but
Yeah.
it's worth it. Yeah,
I had a great time with that game, man. Like, it was just damn good. It was so good.
yeah, it's a great game. Yeah,
It's up there probably as one of my favorite, definitely one of my favorite first person shooters for sure. Like it's
yeah, yeah. I can't think of any other FPS game in the last 5 years that was as good as that game.
no, yeah, probably not.
Yeah.
I can't think of anything new
Uh,
that would even come close.
oh, and by the way, I actually started to enjoy Dead Island 2. I've been playing
Oh,
it
nice.
on PS5, kind of
Okay.
like, using it as a leisure game where I just kind of played for 30 or 40
Yeah.
minutes at the time when I want to relax, but I kind of like it. Like it's not the best game I ever played, but it's not bad. I really
Depends on what
like,
you look
the
in, what you're looking for. You
yeah,
know what I mean? When you're playing it,
yeah.
like,
I like the whole gore system, and
oh yeah, it's phenomenal.
the plot maybe isn't best, but it's kind of, the main character I chose,
Yeah.
that Jacob guy, the English
Yeah.
black
Yeah. Yeah.
dude. He's kind of endearing and kind of
Yeah.
even funny at times. So that's
Even
yeah,
though he
it's
looks goofy
enjoy.
as hell, I played as Bruno
Yeah.
and he was decent. Even he
Oh.
looks goofy as hell,
Okay.
but
Yeah. It's kind of enjoyable. I'm
yeah.
slowly getting through it. Probably like we'll finish it in, I don't know, 3-4 months at this pace.
Yeah. I mean, so like obviously I'm a huge fan of Dead Island, but the thing is that like when you're
Yeah.
playing a zombie game like that, who gives a shit about the story? right?
Yeah, sure.
Who cares? Like, if you're playing a good zombie game, I don't think story matters. I think as long as there's enough there for you to like care for the characters a little bit, kind of root for them. Hey, there's a
Yeah,
goal. Hell yeah. Like Dead Island didn't have a great story and it was way too
yeah.
damn
Dying
serious.
Light doesn't have a good story as well, and it's a
No, and
great game.
I think Dying Light's fantastic, right? But I think Dying Light
Yeah.
definitely has one of the best stories of like all of the Dead
Well,
Island / Dying Light games. But that doesn't say a
mm,
lot, right? That's just
yeah, yeah.
I
Well,
think
I
there's
like the story and the DLC thing where
yeah, the
you meet
following that
that.
was actually a
Yeah,
pretty big
yeah.
improvement. Yeah.
Yeah, that
Um,
was okay. Yeah, but the main campaign, that whole Rise guy and the
yeah.
boss fight at the end, that didn't do it for me.
Yeah, and, I mean they're simple. They're simple, and I mean I mean if you look at any zombie movie, the plots are usually pretty simple.
Yeah,
Like they're
yeah,
not
usually, yeah,
extravagant, right? You know, I mean, sure they have undertones and stuff like that. And sure, Dead Island and
yeah.
stuff they have
I
undertones.
mean,
They have
The
things
Last of
behind them.
Us is at least the
Yeah,
first game. That's a very simple plot,
yeah,
in its essence. The part two is more complicated, but
right, yeah,
it's not complicated in a good way, in my opinion.
right. And you know that's the thing. It's like, but I'm a huge zombie fan. Always have been, always will be. And like I said, you really need that. I think there's more story in like just seeing the struggle or like doing the side missions and like whatever, don't matter if it's Dead Island or whatever, like just meeting these characters, getting to meet these quirky weird characters in the apocalypse. Some of them are batshit crazy, some of them are pretty normal, some of them are sad, some of them are angry, and I think just seeing how people react in this world while also being like this kind of serious but kind of goofy world, because like Dead Island 2, Dan Buster was very heavily inspired by like Quentin Tarantino movies and Robert Rodriguez movies and like 70s and 80s schlock horror movies, and as well as like, Dying Light, Dead Island, stuff like that. And I think Dead Island 2
Well,
does a
there's a
good.
little of Zombieland too, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure, 100%. That's in there.
Yeah.
And it's like uh Dead Island 2 does a great job of melding the like occasionally serious but largely goofy, but
Yeah.
like the story and the side quest and the world is just as goofy and serious as the gameplay and the combat and the story. Like it all is melded together. It's just as equally goofy as it is serious. It's all melded together. It's like a I don't know. It's like a I don't know. It's just in my eyes, it's kind of perfect for zombies. It's just like occasionally it can be serious. You're like, holy shit, like there's like really stakes here, but like then the next time you're like, I'm fighting a bridezilla.
Yeah, Bridezilla, or a guy on fire that
Yeah,
spews fire,
yeah,
or that side quest where you like kill zombies for this chick that's recording
yeah,
her like
yep,
Instagram reel.
yep,
That
yep.
was kind of
There's
funny.
also like there's like an artist that you collect certain body parts for later in the game.
Oh, okay.
That's like doing art based on the different body parts from the different zombies. There's
Hmm.
drunk, drugged out rock and roll guys. There's,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I mean, you do some stuff for some bodybuilders. You go kill their competition, and so that way they got a
Yeah,
chance when things happen. And like you go and try to find drugs for this one dude. You go to this one place in Venice, and like the dude's sitting there smoking a doobie right in front of the window, and a zombie just reaches in and just rips the top of his head off, and he takes one last puff before he face plants the ground. Then the stoner
yeah.
dude picks it up and starts smoking it, and then it just goes on like nothing happened. And they're like, "Oh shit, dude, he's
Yeah.
fucking dead, bro. Oh my god." Then later you can find him like leaned up against a wall in a closet with like shit wrote around him, like drawings of dicks and like you fucking suck because nobody liked him and shit. You're like, damn, that's rough. But like that's the kind of game we're talking about. It's like it's a parody.
Yeah,
It's a goofy, fun time that has a little bit of that like seriousness and horror thrown in there, but it's largely a game about having fun in the zombie apocalypse.
yeah, yeah.
And I think it does a pretty good job at that. And the gore is great. The gore system is fantastic.
Yeah,
Love that shit.
that's very impressive. Yeah,
Oh yeah,
that's
that is
very,
by far the
very
most
impressive.
impressive thing. I also think that like a lot of people kind of complained about the maps being small, but they're pretty
Yeah,
they're
but that
pretty
probably works for this one.
yeah, but you gotta think like how like the graphics of Dead Island 2 though are really fucking good. Like
Yeah.
it
The like
graphically looks really good.
the locations you go through are
Yeah.
really detailed. There is
Yeah.
so much, like that whole streamer house thing.
Yep.
It's
Yep.
Yeah, you don't really see that like outside of maybe immersive sims and stuff
Yeah.
like that, and maybe not even in those games. It's like I will admit that some of these locations are extremely fucking like detailed.
Oh yeah, they are. They're crazy detailed. They're
Yeah,
small. They're like some of them are kind of medium sized. They're
yeah,
like little hub areas. They're kind of linear, but they have ways to
yeah,
like explore and stuff. And but they're also so densely packed with not only detail but like
yeah,
things to
yeah,
do in them, kind of right. And they're just fun
yeah.
to explore. And you know,
Yeah, and the performance is also great because of that.
oh
It's
yeah,
like
that's
it's
that
one of the
reminds me.
best performing games on the PS5, in my opinion.
It's one of the best performing games of the entirety of 2023 actually.
Yeah,
They
yeah.
should have won an award for the most optimized game released in 2023
I was shocked how
because it
like
launched
well
on
it.
everything and every review
Yeah,
was like, dude, this game actually works day 1.
yeah,
Like it actually there's no issues.
yeah.
Like it runs fine.
Yeah.
Like it looks good.
Like
It's
you blow up 20 zombies and it's
yeah,
fine,
no
and
problem. No
all of
nothing.
the
No frame
the
drops,
body
nothing.
parts fly around. You fucking like attack a zombie and you like
Yeah.
get through its jaw to its like inner fucking
Yeah.
spine thing, and
And then
nothing,
some
like
people are
no
like, "Oh,
drops.
there's not that many zombies." I'm like, it's not Dead Rising. It's like, dude, if you run
Yeah,
into like 7 zombies in that game, you could die pretty easily, but you could also live. I mean, did you play the original Dead Island? Because if you played those, like you're never
yeah,
encountering
I did.
30
Yeah,
zombies, you know what I mean? It's just a funny
yeah,
complaint because like you're never encountering 30 zombies and just like fighting a horde. It's always like a few here and there, and like you can die pretty easily in Dead Island 2 or Dead Island 1, but you could also go through and like kill everything pretty easily. It just depends. You know, if you make one mistake, it's you could die. But if you don't and you play it right, then you're good, you know. And it was
I
funny
mean,
you mentioned no, you
yeah.
go ahead. You good.
Yeah, I'm just trying to remember. Oh, I think it was Days Gone that had that whole horde mechanic, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And it's like it's very game dependent on where that actually works. Like in Days Gone, it was okay-ish because
Yeah.
when those mechanics are like of introduced in the campaign, you get those I think Molotov cocktails with
Yeah.
napalm inside them. So it's like it's actually easier to kill off all of those zombies, but then they can still kind of fuck you up.
Oh yeah, and
But
they roam
from what,
like a pack of wild
yeah,
animals, you know,
yeah,
and like you're like, "Oh
yeah.
shit, I got to
But
hide. I got to."
but for, from what I played in Dead Rising games, I didn't play them a lot, but I played some. It's like it's a different vibe. It's
Yeah.
not exactly for me. It's kind of it gets tiresome after a while, and I think Dead Island, it has the balance that I'm fine with.
Yeah. It's
Dying
also
like
largely
that.
a power fantasy, which is great.
Yeah. That's you just basically you run up to
Yeah.
those fucking zombies and you just smash the ground. They fly everywhere.
Yeah.
Then you like pull out your biggest sledgehammer with
Yeah.
acid attached to it, and like you strike one guy and he just he basically disappears after getting
Yeah.
sprayed in acid, and that's so it's kind of disgusting looking, but
Oh
then
yeah.
it's very satisfying when it
Mhm.
happens. So
Yeah.
no, it's enjoyable in in small doses.
Yeah, I mean, I could play it forever, man, and the gore like we were talking about before, like it's just so good. Like and just the
Yeah.
whole like the bone structure, like they built everything. So like I was playing in the Bel Air area and
Okay.
was it Beverly Hills? I think it was Beverly Hills. And like there's like the one house you have to go into that like there's nobody there and for a mission and like there was a zombie like at the window and
Okay.
I had something like a bat or something. I charged it up and I hit the zombie like right in the shin
Okay.
and it snapped the leg at the shin, and the shin bone is sticking out.
Oh,
Like it broke right at the shin with the shin bone sticking
damn.
out. The zombie like falls over and it starts crawling to me, and you can just like see the leg kind of dragging behind. And I was like, holy shit.
Yeah.
Like this game's impressive that like that is a thing. Or like you punch
Yeah.
your hand
Like
right through their freaking
yeah.
head.
The first time I seen like the moment when you strike a zombie and like the jaw starts
Yeah.
hanging from its head and then you start to smash it and it's like
Yeah.
holy shit, I'd never seen that before in a
Yeah.
video game,
Yeah.
and it's gnarly, but it's
Oh, it's
fucking impressive.
Yeah, it's gnarly, but it's impressive and it's cool. Like that, like
Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
impressed that they achieved what they did with that. Like it's really
Yeah,
good.
and not many people even talk about that, right?
No, they don't. And
Yeah,
it's like
that's yeah,
that alone is
impressive
almost an
tech.
entire selling point. Like it's just
Yeah.
that tech is holy shit. It's good.
Yeah, it's like, when people played Red Faction Guerrilla for,
Yeah,
all of
yeah,
the
yeah,
destruction that you could do. You could
yeah.
play this game just to see,
Just for the gore, like just for the
what you can do with those fucking zombies.
yeah.
It's yeah, that's really impressive.
Also, like you tear their clothes and like
Yeah, yeah.
another disgusting thing that I found out, there was like this like larger, heavier set zombie that was running at me, and I sliced with a
Yeah,
machete at its stomach,
yeah.
and its guts fell out.
Oh shit.
It's that detailed. Like the guts, cut at their stomach, their guts will fall out, and they're like hanging out, and you're like, "Ugh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that was gonna happen.
Yeah, and some of them seem to be like kind of rotting even when they
Yeah,
are like still walking around, those Shambler guys,
yeah. The
right?
shamblers, like
Yeah,
you can
those are
watch
fucking
their
disgusting.
yeah, they are, and they're like you can actually watch them kind of like deteriorate in real time, and like their body parts will just fall off and shit. Like it's
Yeah,
weird. And the acid, like
yeah,
the acid work, that mechanic works really good too. Like the way that their
yeah,
bodies break down is crazy.
yeah,
I also it's funny you mentioned immersive sims. Like there's some like light immersive sim elements, if you want to call it that, in the games. Like in that game,
yeah,
where you can like electrify water, and
yeah, sure. Yeah,
I actually thought it was cool that you could like like actually draw like a line with the water or the gas and then light it, and then it
oh
would
yeah, yeah.
follow that
That water
line.
can mechanic is pretty fucking cool. Yeah,
Yeah, like I was like, huh, okay. And like if you
yeah,
connect, like like if you there's water here that's electrified, and then you pour more water to another location, it will follow that as if it would in real life. And if you're holding the can, obviously you get electrocuted. Um,
yeah. It seems like
like,
they
huh?
really wanted people to try and use as many,
Yeah,
of the elemental weapons as they possibly can. Like, it's better to have an acid weapon, fire weapon,
yeah,
electric weapon, and that bleed thing and
yeah, yeah.
impactor weapon than just have all normal vanilla weapons that have no side effects.
Yeah, they definitely wanted to say, hey, let's take everything that was fun about like the prior games and make it more fun.
And
And they even
just
added like the
yeah,
drop kick and like
yeah, yeah,
mantling and sliding
yeah,
and all that. Kick. The
yeah,
kick
yeah.
is still there, obviously.
Yeah, I really like the those superpowers that you get. That thing where you smush the ground, or
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah,
yeah, or you basically can spew acid too.
yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
fucking disgusting, but it's
Yeah,
funny.
it's cool. Yeah, it's funny. It's goofy as
Yeah,
hell. You sit there and just like
yeah,
claw at the enemies and just smack them around. It's like
yeah,
great.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, the I don't know. There's just a lot of cool little things they did. The guns, I actually like the guns a lot. A lot of people were like,
Yeah,
"Man, the guns
it's
suck."
they're
I'm like, yeah,
decent.
but
Yeah,
I'm like, yeah, but have you played like? Did you play Dying Light? Did you play Dead Island? Because the guns
yeah,
suck in those games, and I
yeah.
love those
And
games.
Dying Light, they really sucked. Yeah,
Yeah, they really suck. They sucked even more in Dead Island. Same guys. They
yeah,
improved it
yeah. I
slightly,
know,
but
I
it
know.
still sucks. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
But then like Dead
yeah,
Island 2 is like got the best, most realistic guns that entire series has ever had. And people are like, "Oh, they suck. The guns suck." I'm like, man, they're overpowered as hell.
yeah.
You
They're
get a gun, you
well
could like
right. Yeah.
kill every zombie in sight within seconds. Like they're
Yeah,
overpowered as
I
shit.
was, I was expecting, the weapons, the guns to be, less developed as
Yeah.
when compared to the melee weapons, but they are fine. They are
Yeah.
they are good at killing off most enemies from
Yeah.
afar. So why
I think it
not?
is pretty funny,
The-
like when you shoot them in the head and their head pops off. Though unrealistic as hell, but it's kind of funny.
Yeah. The
And
only
it, but
thing that annoys me is that mechanic where you can get the weapon to match your level, right? And it's so damn expensive. I'm like
yeah,
at this point I'm too poor to like match any weapon that I have.
yeah.
So
I never
it's
did that. I never did it once.
really
Yeah, there's no point. I mean, you keep
yeah.
getting more.
I
You,
mean
it's
yeah
like the other. It's like okay, so it's like the other games in the same way, where like you're gonna get more weapons that are better. You're gonna be able to get
yeah
that same weapon. There's no reason to do that except for like a legendary um
yeah.
weapon because like they can be lower level or whatever. But like that's the only reason you want to do is a
Yeah.
legendary, but you can't get rid of a legendary anyway. Like you can't
Oh
drop
yeah.
it, you can't sell it. You have to keep them. You keep them in your storage. They expanded the storage recently. There's like a fuck ton of slots in there now. Originally they didn't have. They
Okay.
had enough in there before that you could hold every legendary in the game and nothing else. Like if you took like every legendary in the game, put them in your inventory slot, and then like the storage, you'd be able to hold them all. That was it.
Okay.
But now you've got like there's like 300 slots, so you can hold whatever you want. They did
Yeah,
that with
my
the
inventory
DLC.
is usually all filled up with everything I
Yeah,
find.
yeah. I never found a reason
So,
for you to do that because you're always getting new weapons, and like I said, unless it's a
yeah,
legendary, it doesn't really matter. You know.
yeah. Well, I just liked some of the weapons and I wanted to
Right.
keep them, but the prices got so
Oh
aggressive
yeah.
that I'm just like, okay, I accept the fact that I just need to find a better weapon and
Yeah.
leave that
Yeah,
one.
and I think
Just
that
just
that
scrap it.
yeah, it worked a lot for me. Like I just scrapped stuff. I just found something new. Like you'd find weapons pretty often.
Yeah, yeah.
The what are they? The Lost and Found quests are pretty fun. That's where you get most like the legendaries and stuff.
Mm,
Do like these little
yeah.
investigative quest lines to find stuff, and that's pretty fun.
Yeah, and I
Uh,
actually like the whole mechanic of, those throwables
yeah,
not being tied to like resources, but just being on the timer. It's just like,
yeah,
one thing that would be a hassle to remember about just, taking care of. And,
yeah, and it's an
that's just,
improvement
just
from
fun. Yeah.
yeah, it's an improvement from the other ones where like it was
Yeah.
an inventory slot for like Dead Island,
Yeah.
and like you had to equip it and stuff. I
Yeah,
like that
that
better.
vial filled with zombie guts that you can
Yeah,
throw, and
yeah,
that's really useful in many
boom.
situations. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
I also just like what like I enjoyed it in Dead Island and stuff too, but I just like jumping up, drop kicking a zombie off like a balcony or something, just watching them ragdoll.
yeah, yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
I think they brought it. Yeah, they brought it back. Where you can, I think you can drown the zombies in Dead Island 2.
Oh, really? I
Yeah,
didn't know that.
In Dead Island 1, you could drown zombies and Riptide. You can't in Dying Light, but you can in Dead Island. You like if you're at the water, you can kick them in the water, and you'll see these little like blue numbers, and they'll literally go there and they'll drown and they'll die if you keep them down there long enough. Yeah, I thought it was just a funny little thing that they didn't need to add, but I think
Yeah,
you can do it in Dead Island 2. Like if you get them in the pool and you knock them over in there, I think you can make them drown.
so kind of like The Sims.
Yeah, it's just goofy, but yeah. Yeah, it's pretty cool, I mean, there's little things like that. Their glass physics are pretty decent. I was
Yeah,
surprised. Most
yeah,
games glass sucks.
yeah. The Last of Us Part 2 has pretty nice glass physics.
Yeah.
I noticed.
They do
Yeah,
the they do the same thing that a lot of Unreal games have done lately. I'm trying to think of all the ones who've done it, like Dead Island 2, Hogwarts Legacy. I think uh played maybe not all of them are Unreal, but something else. I don't remember. But it's like reflection, or not like reflections, but like mirrors and stuff. Like even Prey 2017 did
yeah,
it, but Prey 2017 like made it to where it was like super dark, so you didn't really see anything. But like Dead Island 2 and Hogwarts Legacy both do like in mirrors, it's like a weird blurry
yeah,
reflection that's not a reflection.
yeah, yeah.
And There is one mirror in Dead Island 2 that just blows my mind why it exists. There's one mirror in Dead Island 2 that's perfectly seeable, like it's not blurred, and it's in the little like home gym that's in your main base at the beginning of the game. And if you go in
Okay.
there, there's a mirror like leaned up against the wall, and in the reflection you can see this like weird kind of shadow of yourself, kind of like the other ones, but it's not blurred. And the reflection of the room that's in the mirror is actually a two-dimensional picture of that room in its entirety in the
No.
mirror. Like it's not even rendered.
Okay.
It's just a picture. I'm like, why did you even put it there? Why are there even mirrors in the game? You can't even. Why don't you just make them blank? Make them black. Like I don't get it. Like if
They
you're not gonna
all
do it, just
just
don't.
make them all broken.
Yeah, just make them all broken or like make them blank or something. Like I don't know. Like there's no point in
Yeah.
having them if you're not gonna use them. I don't get why they don't use them. I mean, it's
I mean,
something so
it's
small, but also something that doesn't matter. Like
yeah. I mean, it's probably the technological limitation
I'm
because
sure, but weird.
mirrors in like games from the 2000s that used renderware and stuff like that.
Yeah,
They usually use that render to texture technique. So
yeah,
basically, it was just this a doubling of the game world rendered in the mirror just flipped. So
yeah.
that's completely unfeasible for today's graphics. So
That's basically what they
some
did in that mirror, though. They just didn't show
yeah
you.
yeah I
It's
guess.
weird.
I
Um,
was surprised to see that in, as I said before, The Last of Us Part 2. I
yeah,
played it some today and I seen, a reflection that was actually, like working because most of the mirrors are
yeah,
completely, broken or blank. And there was like this one gym with this huge mirror that reflected the whole room and you
yeah.
could actually see the character. And I was like, did they add ray tracing here? Is that possible, or is this like a render to texture thing, like for
Yeah, I don't
only
know.
one room in the whole game? It's really
I mean,
weird.
maybe. You never
Maybe
know.
it's really weird. Yeah,
It's
they
weird.
usually just use cube maps in games like these where
Yeah,
everything is just completely static. But if a game is has some dynamic lighting system or something that completely stops working.
yeah. Um,
Yeah.
so before we wrap it up and everything,
Yeah.
let's mention a quick little bit about your rebrand
Oh, sure.
as the Primordial.
Well, okay. Well, up until now, I was known as just Koski on YouTube, and I felt that that name, I still like it. I'm still
Yeah,
going to use it on many, websites that I use or on Steam and stuff like that. But I just felt that it was kind of bad for expanding and for my branding. So I decided to go with something that's a little more pronounceable or maybe a little more memorable than
right.
that name. So I went with Primordial Chronicles, or rather, the Primordial Chronicles, because there's actually a game that has Primordial Chronicles in its
Oh,
title. So I'm trying to distance
yeah,
myself
yeah,
from
yeah.
that. But I already spoken to the dev and they are all right with it. So,
Oh, cool.
uh, and the design is kind of tied to that. It's I think we talked about this. It's kind of inspired by Soma, but it's
Yeah,
mostly supposed to give off this retro futuristic kind of Lovecraftian underwater vibe that
yeah.
I kind of just dig visually. And I kind of just want to suggest to people what this channel is trying to become with time, because I haven't released a video, like a regular video, since 2022. I had a really busy year last year, and life is just sometimes like that, and it's complicated. So uh, now that I'm planning to, kind of come back to making these videos, I kind of wanted to, connect this rebrand with maybe slightly changing the types of videos I make. I still
Hmm.
want to, maybe do reviews in the future, but I kind of want to focus on more freeform videos, essays, and maybe talk more about, more obscure older games or horror games or, stuff like that. That's, that I kind of got into in the last, 3 to 5 years. So that's mostly it, I guess.
I'm down to watch them because I like your editing and stuff.
Yeah, thanks, man.
I really enjoyed that the last video you did.
On Rhyme, right?
Rhyme, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that one a lot. And I went back and watched. I think I watched all your videos now. I went back and watched your Condemned one and all that stuff.
Yeah, these are getting pretty old now, but
Yeah.
what can you do?
Hey, I mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely looking forward to what you got coming out, what you gonna do next. It's pretty cool.
Yeah. Let's get to 500 this year, please. Or maybe 1,000
subs.
Yeah.
Are you not at 500?
No.
Oh,
not yet.
I thought you were. I thought you were over.
I think you are at 550, right? Or over that.
Yeah, I'm at 550 something. Yeah.
Nice. Congrats, man.
Thank you. I'm hoping to try to reach 600 soon. Hopefully, at least by the end of the year.
See? Okay. Well,
nice
I'll try to do that too.
do our best. Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of releasing a few releasing a few little small things here and there that I've been doing. It's kind of like a just refresher, but for myself. But the Darkness 2 video, did you watch that? I can't remember. That I released?
Yeah, I think I watched some of it. Yeah.
Okay.
It was pretty nice.
That was kind of like a, that's kind of me. That's kind of the direction I want to go in from now on.
Okay.
But once I release a few little side things that I'm doing, it's gonna be pretty much just videos like that, and essays and stuff like that that are more of that similar size and scope and stuff. And I mean, I have like a couple other little things that I kind of delayed for now, but after these little small things, I'm doing a video on Origins that you did the thumbnail for.
Oh yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
And then I'm gonna do something on a We Happy Few. I might hit you up for a thumbnail for.
Sure. Why not?
Then then I got like a couple little small things that'll come out after that, and then it's literally just gonna be nothing but those kind. And I'm gonna try to stick with that for a while because I just kind of need to focus on like a certain kind of video to kind of keep it more simple for myself.
Okay, and more podcasts, right?
Oh yeah, of course, podcasts, definitely. It'll basically just be videos like that of that size and scope, and then podcasts, and that'll just be like pretty much it.
Okay. So who's next?
Who's next? I think Storm's next. He was on a few weeks ago, and he's coming back now. Because
so he's a regular.
We would talk Alan Wake 2 quite a bit.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I beat it not that long ago, so we're gonna it's gonna be like a big spoiler chat, I guess.
Okay, that could be interesting.
Yeah, it could be interesting. I have a lot to say about that game.
Oh.
But
have you invited Medium?
Yeah, me and him said that me and him were gonna talk about it, and I don't know if he wants to do it separately or not. So, I mean, if he sees this, he'll know. But I'm gonna try to see if maybe he wants to do one with us on that, or if he wants to do it separately.
Okay.
See.
Well, good luck with that.
Yeah, thanks, man. It was great talking to you. Great having you on. Definitely.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
Sure.
Yeah, sure. Sometime. Yeah.
Sure. All right, man.
Thanks, mate.
I'll talk to you later. I'll see you.
Yeah. See ya. Bye.